In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Good morning, wherever you may be around the globe, in the chat room, in a hospital, wherever you are. I welcome you all. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and I am Michael Vera. Folks, we've got I think it's going to be, I hate to say a great show, because it's not great talking about the things we're going to talk about tonight, I don't think. And by the way, I had computer issues earlier, which are now taken care of, but that prevented me from doing as much as I would have liked to have tonight. So I know what we're talking about tonight. I don't know the whole story with my guest tonight. However, my guest, who was recommended by very good friends of mine, and who does have a hell of a story to talk about concerning human trafficking. So that's what we're going to discuss tonight. And, well, she's going to have a lot to talk about with us tonight. So we're going to be all ears, I think. We're going to get out on this issue or speak out on this issue here tonight on Late Night in the Midlands. But a lot going on tonight. So I didn't get as much done as I'd like. And then, of course, our head moderator, our beloved J.H., has found herself in a hospital where she's got to go and get all fixed up now. So she's going to be doing that. J.H., our prayers are with you. Even though I know you don't need them, you're strong, you're spiritual, you'll be just fine. So don't worry. When I had my heart attack, I joked all the way through it. And you know what? Just keep your sense of humor. You'll be fine. And we'll see you back in the chat room here doing your job shortly. Our good friend Brascala, who is going to be, who is on Saturday nights. He's going into the hospital. I don't know exactly when. It might be tomorrow. And he's having a tumor removed. So we've got a lot to pray about, a lot to be thankful about, because we have some great people in our lives here in L&M. And we want to do everything we can to be sure that they're with us for many, many years to come. And that includes me. I mean, I've had my own health scares. So I know, but you know what? I shouldn't say health scare, because it's really not a scare. Never be afraid, because there is most definitely another side. And I could promise you this, those who have passed before us, they're watching over us. So, JH, just keep your sense of humor and get ready to be bigger, better, and stronger than before. And that's the bottom line. So, all right. Well, anyways, my guest tonight, let me tell you a little bit about her. I know we're talking about human trafficking, and she is Jody Williams, and she's got a lot to share with us. So we'll talk with her shortly. Now, I do have some news that I want to get into. Of course, no news is ever good news here on L&M News, is it? 2 military facilities attacked. Gunman's dead. What a coincidence. It's Jade Helm Day, right? And now what do we got going on? We're conspiracy theorists. But anyways, they say at least one gunman unleashed a barrage of gunfire at 2 military facilities Thursday in Tennessee, sending troops scrambling for safety. And an Army recruiting office official said, Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam said, lives have been lost from some faithful people who are serving our country. Though he did not say how many people were killed or wounded, that might have come out by now. I don't know. I haven't done an update since, I guess, 7 o'clock tonight. So who knows? Chattanooga police said in a tweet this afternoon that the active shooter situation was over. Apparently this shooter was killed. That's usually the situation. And hey, it could have been a lot of things. Anyways, let me tell you what they're saying first before I tell you what I'm thinking. They say that the shooter was killed, and law enforcement sources said that the shooting suspect was identified, and I'm going to try this, 24-year-old Muhammad Yusuf Abdelis. Okay? Yusuf. Yeah. Interesting. According to a U.S. law enforcement source, this Muhammad fella was born in Kuwait and came to the United States in 1996 and became a U.S. citizen. And they say it's unclear if and when, that he became a U.S. citizen. So anyways, he's in the United States. And for all we know, he could have snuck over the border, the one that Obama leaves wide open. And it ain't just Obama. This has been going on for a while, but Obama's the worst. I myself, I find it strange that on the very day Jade Helm starts here in America, we wind up with military facilities shot up, and by who else but a guy born in Kuwait and is now an American citizen, possibly, or at least he's in America. This could be many things right now because, well, as you know, it's still early in the investigation, and when it's this early into these things, I don't like to speculate too heavily. Although I do like to point out the obvious. Maybe some nut thought that he was going to be a hero and went and did this. I don't know. He thought he'd get his name in. I mean, there are nuts like that. They could be on pharmaceuticals. These things could happen. They could be doing it. Someone could have done it because the mainstream media is saying that guys like myself caused this with our freedom of speech and our real news coverage. So, someone could have went off the handle, and done something like this. Of course, I always do call for no violence. So let's do it as peaceful as we can. And I always insist that we leave mom and pop alone. Now, maybe it's a terrorist or some right or left wing nut. Maybe it's something like that. I'm thinking more on the side of a false flag myself, and I know it's because I'm a big conspiracy theorist nut job. I get that. I know. But for me, again, it's still too early to say. However, common sense really points in that direction. Jade Helm Day, military establishment shot up. Anyway, some of this can be found on latenightinthemidlands.com, and then there's a link that takes you to a whole bunch more on this this stuff. Iran, it says, bans U.S. inspectors from all nuclear sites. No Americans will be permitted under final nuclear deal. Isn't that wonderful? The U.S. and Iranian officials confirmed Thursday that no American nuclear inspectors will be permitted to enter the country's contested nuclear site under the parameters of a deal reached with world powers this week, according to multiple statements by American and Iranian officials. And so apparently other countries will be allowed to go in and inspect, but not the United States. And you know what? Right now, with the United States being the hot hand that it is, and kind of the government's being the terrorist organization that it is, you gotta wonder, why wouldn't somebody want to take a pop if they see the big picture for what it is? And I know I just moved up the terrorist list now. And speaking of terrorists, John McCain has a few things to say about Donald Trump. He says that it's very bad. He said he was unhappy by Trump's rally. He says this performance with our friend out in Phoenix is very hurtful to me, McCain said, because what he did, get this is what R2D2 McCain said, because what he did was he fired up the crazies. Now, let's think about that for a moment. Who would John McCain be calling the crazies? Oh, well, I guess I would fit into that category, right? I'm crazy. Why am I crazy? Because I want our borders protected when you're feeling up grandma in the airport? I want our borders protected when you're feeling up grandma in the airport. You're feeling her up in the airport because you're telling me you want to keep us safe, all right? So now my grandma's been violated at the airport, but you're leaving the borders wide open. All right? But I'm a crazy guy. Yeah, I'm crazy. This coming from the puppet. Never mind. I won't even go there. I'm not going to be that mean because it'll be pointed out how mean I was. So I'll leave it alone. But there you go. John R2D2 McCain. Angry. Just angry. They're angry. The establishments, they're ticked off because this guy's just saying it like it is and they can't control him. And he's supposed to have some debate with Jeb Bush. Oh my God, is that going to be fun? I'll tell you, I'm going to kick back. Roll a fatty and watch that one, folks. You'll love it. Enormous black hole has outgrown its galaxy. Astronomers have discovered a supermassive black hole that appears to have grown to a ridiculous size. Scientists have long believed that the growth of supermassive black hole is closely linked to the growth of its parent galaxy, meaning that one should generally remain proportional to the other. This week, however, the discovery of the black hole, containing 10% of its host galaxy's entire mass, has turned this idea upside down and left scientists scratching their heads. Look, scientists are bald. They've been scratching their heads since the beginning of time, scientists have. Every time they try to tell us how something is or it should be, we find out that they're absolutely wrong. So, what this article is really telling us is that still scientists don't really know too much about anything, right? The supermassive black hole in question, they say, which measures a whopping 6.9 billion times the mass of the sun, is located in the distant galaxy SID-947, which formed 2 billion years after the Big Bang. The Big Bang. Something else we're not sure of. But they put it in there like it's fact, even though there's nothing backing it up. So a lot going on here in the good old U.S. of A. and around the world. Jade Helm is in action. I got a lot of trees around me here, and I'm waiting to see military springing from their ropes out of the trees to come get me. We'll see what happens. I joke about it, folks, but the truth is, I think that when the days roll through here, we're going to find connections. And I don't mean before it's news connections. I mean real connections we're going to find with this whole thing with Jade Helm. We're in some sticky times, folks. We really, really are. So we'll be back in just a few moments. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and I am Michael Vera.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. You've heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz and experts urge you to avoid deadly vaccinations and illegal operators selling stolen OxySilver and OxySilver copycats. You've heard experts tell you about suppression in alternative medicine and confusing propaganda in healthcare and the truth movement. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from theCureShop.com. Including OxySilver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol. Electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. OxySilver is covalently bonded to water. Unlike any other silver product using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently body silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. OxySilver works 3 ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risk. OxySilver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy OxySilver, GI Flora Pro, Green Harvest, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you. The L&M Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. We've been around a while now, and we have seen and heard many things. We have had thousands of great guests who have provided the best information, and I say that in confidence. A whole lot has changed in media and information since growing up and listening to the best.
Well, we're going to get in lots of trouble tonight, I suppose.
It has made me want to be the best. You see, in the last decade, we have seen our police become our military, and man-made deadly viruses unleashed on the public.
Coming up in the news, another case of Ebola at a Texas hospital.
And should Rochester police officers have body cameras?
Those stories and more on the way.
All this after we were told that Middle Eastern men hijacked planes and waged war on we the people.
Obviously a major fire there, and there has been some sort of explosion. We don't fully know the details. There is one report, as of yet unconfirmed, that a plane has hit of the World Trade Center, and you can see that there is smoke there coming out of at least two sides of the building.
And despite some calling me a conspiracy theorist, even mainstream media cannot hide what I have been saying for the last few years, and it is now coming to be.
We are seeing the setup of World War III, and a lot of it has to do with the oil prices.
Oil is just a small part, but more of an illusion for you and I to talk about than the truth, because free energy is real, and if I know it, so do they. So you see, everything we have been telling you is not only seen by others who have broke free from the Matrix, but is happening right this minute and will soon be in a city or town near you.
To start a third world war, either by stimulating the Muslim world into a holy war against the West, or by using China to cause global conflict, maybe both.
The years after the millennium will see gathering conflict all over the world, to the point where the United Nations will be overwhelmed.
So keep listening to media who wants to stall you, brainwash you, and load you up on half-truths while serving an agenda of their own or the cabal.
And I was finally lucky today. I got through. And so
Welcome to the health insurance marketplace.
We're through. Okay. Hello?
Para continuar en español, marque el 2 ahora.
Yeah. Okay. Hello? Hello?
Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. Okay. Hi. My name's Sean. What's yours? Hello? Hi.
What was that?
Start holding your media outlets accountable.
You know that I bashed Bush the entire time. I wasn't even allowed on Coast to Coast there for a while because I was told not to talk about Bush.
Start holding their feet to the fire. Do not allow them to lie to you for website hits or views to their videos.
Rupert Murdoch are the same person. They're not. Or that George Soros is secretly trying to take over the world. Hardly. He's spending every cent he has to stop it. George Soros may be the only billionaire that we know of that's making an effort to make this a better world. The man hasn't done anything wrong. About 30% of what's on veterans today is patently false. About 40% of what I write is at least purposely partially false, because if I didn't write false information, I wouldn't be alive.
Folks, L&M is setting the example by bringing you the truth, no matter who or what it leads to. We do not pretend to have all the answers, nor do we feed you wild stories to pick your pockets.
I love listening to John Buell.
I don't know where he is. He faded away. Yeah, he's gone. They took him. He jumped into a mothership, and he's gone. That's what he said. He used to say that. He used to say, I'm in the mothership. Well, I am a robot.
Because for Late Night in the Midlands, this is not entertainment. This is life or death. Late Night in the Midlands, we cover everything, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
It's the middle of the night, and there's nothing much to do. Bring your insomniac self over to Late Night in the Midlands and learn something. We've got every topic you can think of with very little being off limits. Alien abductions, government corruption is the stuff that's got your sleep disrupted. Come join the conversation tales and tune in to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera.
Makes me who I am, and you know what? I love it. And so, but I'm not always a simple guy. Sometimes I'm not. But we won't talk about that. We've got a few minutes before I bring my guest on, and so I thought I'd do a little something. Maybe this will cheer JH up, folks, because we are going to ask everybody to gather around and give a prayer for JH, who is getting a triple bypass surgery in the morning. It's going to make her, like I said before, bigger, better, and stronger than before. And our good friend Rascala, who's going to be getting a tumor removed from his bladder, I believe, which I think is tomorrow as well. I could be wrong on that, but it's happening. So two people that we love, that's a big part of the LNM radio network and our LNM family. So everybody join together, and you know how prayer is. You know what it does, right? So the more of us that do it, the better off it is. And believe me, it matters. It definitely makes a difference, because there is an energy, there is a power, there is another side. And somehow those prayers just activate all that. I don't know how it works, but it does. But here's a little something might cheer you up tonight, JH. Just remember, things can always be worse. I mean, you could be Obama.
Let's do that one we made up about the Obama campaign.
Oh, Mr. Scam Man.
Scam Man, yeah. Mr. Scam Man, where is your dream? I thought my life would be all peaches and cream. Now I don't have a job and I'm out of money. And moving forward, things don't look too sunny. Scam Man, I'm so alone. Don't have a mortgage to call my own. So much for the roses and the clover. I'm using food stamps to feed a rover. Mr. Scam Man, we need a cure and not a worldwide apology tour. You're tearing down our country's good reputation by trying to make us an Obama nation. Scam Man, hey, don't touch a thing. Take more vacation time and work on your swing. We need a president a little wiser than a community organizer. Bum, 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 oh, bummer. Scam man, we can't forget. You promised you'd reduce the national debt. That's what so many millions gave you their vote for. A change of your address is all we hope for, scam man. Hey, you're breaking our backs. Is it a penalty or is it a tax? Only half of us are paying our share. That's fair. He don't seem to even Obamacare. We all say no, no, no Obamacare. Yeah.
All right, folks, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and I am Michael Vera, and now I know why George Norrie and Art Bell don't pop in a chat room. I get it. But, all right, so we're going to get things going here. Jody Williams is joining us here. We're going to talk about human trafficking, and I'm going to get her on the line with us in just a moment. So let me get this squared away here, and we'll get it going. And, all right, let's see here if it works. All right, it looks like it's going to work. All right, so here we go. Let's get Jody on the line, and let's get some more information on this. Or not. Oh, well.
Hello?
Oh, hi, Jody. This is Michael Vera with Late Night in the Midlands. How are you?
Okay, how about you?
Oh, great. I'm sorry. I was just about to hang up. I'm glad I heard you. But I want to welcome you to the show. We are live. And, well, I guess first I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. And second, maybe a little background and take us into where we're going tonight a little bit.
Well, I'm the founder of Sex Workers Anonymous. For your older listeners who might remember me, we started out as Prostitutes Anonymous, actually, in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
So it was a 12-step group. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was that groundbreaking in a way at a time now in today's terms. It's a 12-step group for people to leave prostitution or some part of the sex industry. But there were some things that, were actually, quite shocking about it at the time, caused a lot of controversy. And, of course, I did a lot of television and radio and things like that back then because of, the very fact that we were starting it. And two of the things that were, quite shocking about it at the time was why I said, sorry for the coughing.
Oh, that's okay.
Just a second. Wait. Okay, that'll help.
All
Okay,
right.
one of the things that was shocking about it at the time was when I set up the hotline, I started explaining that domestic sex trafficking was very real. And in 1987, people used to call it white slavery, and they would crack jokes about it, how it was over, white slavery was over, that kind of thing. And, I'd actually witnessed stuff connected with Iran-Contra as well as actual sex trafficking while I was out there. And so I already knew that people didn't believe it happened, that it wasn't real. Even the police were telling me they didn't believe it was real. So as an end result, you're calling the police saying, hey, this, girlfriend of mine, she just got kidnapped by a pimp, and she's being put on a plane, and she's being sold to these people. And you sound like you're completely crazy back then. And you've got cops laughing, going, oh, are you high, and that kind of thing. And I'm like, no, go look. And you realize quite quickly that you're on your own. And so for that reason, I had to put together our own security at that time. Now the papers say that there was a record number of serial killers in Los Angeles at the same time. So I was dealing with white slavers, record number of serial killers, drug dealers that loved white girls, so they were actually, like, there were these vans that used to roam around Los Angeles that would literally throw white girls into the back of the van, never to be seen again. And I mean, these kind of things, you're calling the police and they're just laughing. They're saying, what are you talking about? Or they're not laughing and they're just flat refusing to help you. So, I put up this hotline and I said, look, if you need help, call us, because I was doing this even when I was in the sex industry. When they arrested me, the media dubbed me the high-tech madam. And the reason they called me the high-tech madam, and a lot of the media never asked me this. I had all these computers, and I had, surveillance equipment, and I had all this security around this warehouse that I got that was 2 blocks from the Van Nuys police station. That was our safe house. And the media never questioned me. Why did you have all this security? Why did you have all this surveillance equipment? And that was why we were just having to go through all kinds of, kidnapping and sex trafficking and this, just violence, that kind of thing. So, and we were having to protect ourselves. So when I actually got put on probation and had to leave, I kept thinking, well, who's going to do something about this? Who's going to help these people? If I can't be out there, who's going to help? So, I put out the hotline and I said, I'm still here. I'm still helping, even though I'm out of the business. So if you need help to get away from something, give us a call. And so, of course, when we stepped up, people were just disbelieving totally. They absolutely, the reaction that I got was like if I'd stood up and said that I'd been a victim of alien abduction. That literally was the kind of reaction I got out of people. Absolute total disbelief. And I didn't mind, because I said the people that need me will know what I'm talking about and will call. And we were getting thousands of phone calls, just thousands of calls from all over the United States, from people that were just like so relieved that somebody believed them and could help them. And then and another reason why we started the 12-step format, because a lot of people question me like, well, did you do it because you think it's an addiction? The reason is because, I'd gone to the governor and I said, look, there are people being forced to engage in the prostitution, but then they're arrested. And when they go to the police and they're saying, I'm not doing this by choice, I'm being forced to do this, they're being treated like a criminal. They're being locked up. This is ridiculous and it's got to stop. And, because then they're getting like penalized twice and they can't go to the police for help because then they're arrested. So he said, look, it's going to take a long time to change the laws, probably at least 2 decades, if not longer. He said, so in the meantime, he said, there are laws on the books right now to where, because of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, he said, there's laws on the books right now where you can go in immediately and you can start pulling people out of jail and you can offer alternative sentencing. He said, you don't have to pass any laws, you don't have to have any PhDs behind you. He said, you literally can go down and just start pulling them out of the jails right now. Talk to the judges, and explain that in these cases, these victims can explain to the judge what's going on and they can ask for alternative sentencing, and then they can be court-ordered into your program where you can, start helping them instead of incarcerating them. And he said, you can do that today. And he said, then, the other, he said, you can work on it. And he warned me, he said any movement takes at least like 20 years to get recognition. So he said, buckle in, it's going to be a long ride. And I said, okay. So, we did. I went to, immediately went to, oh my God, I had no idea how revolutionary Tom Bradley was at the time, because I just accepted it. I went to Tom Bradley, and who was the mayor then, and our sheriff, and I said, okay, I've started this 12-step group, so how do we go about court-ordering prostitutes out of jail? Because another problem at the time was they were having record overcrowding. Just absolute, they especially the transgenders, they were getting this huge overflow of transgenders that they didn't even know where to house them. They literally had the transgenders at that time in the cafeteria of the city hall building, because there was no place to put them. They didn't want to put them in the male population, and they didn't want to put them in the female population. So they were so relieved to see me when I showed up. They're like, here, you can have them. And they just, we just started the very first alternative sentencing program, and and just cleared out the jails. I mean, there was people even being ordered out on short time. And another reason that I didn't realize at the time what a difference this was is HIV was raging in the late 80s. And so, of course, literally the drug treatment centers were refusing to admit prostitutes. The shelters were refusing to admit prostitutes. The jails, the guards were refusing to deal with them. The guards were quitting, saying, I don't want to touch that person. I mean, it was just a time when nobody wanted a prostitute. Nobody wanted to go near them. So literally, yeah, when I showed up and I said, I can take them off your hands, they were like, here, take them. And we had literally like this there was an empty drug treatment center called Via Volta. It was just completely vacant. They just shut down. And some of the people did require some kind of residential incarceration. So what the judges did was they said, look, we'll give them to you, but, you know, we really kind of need you to lock them up a little bit, so we're going to compromise. And as long as you put them in this treatment center, then it's an alternative. At least they're not going to be in jail. So, but they said, we got to prioritize. We really want to get the pregnant ones out first, you know. So literally, if you were a pregnant HIV prostitute, you just immediately got out of jail and got put in this Via Volta program. And it was all, you know, Bradley explained to me, he said, look, he said, if I do this officially or if I do this in the press, he said, we'll never get it approved. He said, we will be blocked. We'll get nothing but red tape. He said, you're going to have to understand that we can't have any press about this. We've got to do this under the radar if we want to get this done. And, you know, we got it done. We were, you know, putting them in the treatment center. We were getting them out of jail. I had like 6 meetings all over Los Angeles. It just exploded, you know?
Yeah.
And then again, like I said, looking back, quite revolutionary, because now I'm seeing exactly what he means about the press and the red tape and the politics and the walls. My God, he was a genius. So, you know, that went on. But granted, we didn't get any press about it, because conversely, if we'd had any press, then we would have been blocked. I can see that now. And that's what, you know, it was all like an off-the-grid meeting. He gave us an empty, you know, conference room that we had once a week. We'd get together and plan our outreach, because that was another thing I explained to him. We had 2 major problems with the HIV outbreak. One, of course, was the sex workers were not going to want to come forward for testing because it was considered incriminating. You know, then they could be charged with attempted murder. So the sex workers were going, I'm not getting tested. I'm not, you know, incriminating myself. I'm not going to tell you I'm a prostitute. You're just going to lock me up in jail. They were also refusing to wear condoms because, you know, of course it was considered evidence. So we had to pull in the whole police department and the whole district attorney's office and get them to agree that they would not use condoms as, you know, evidence, that they would stop doing that, and also that you know, we had to set up a special testing site for the sex workers. And another problem at the time was transgenders didn't look like Caitlin, okay? Transgenders then looked like a guy in a dress. So the transgenders were saying, I'm not going to come out and get tested because I'm a freak and people are going to laugh at me. So what we did was, you know, we took the ones that were positive and therefore needed a job, and we hired them, and we created this special, like, sub-health department. And what that was is the transgenders, the prostitutes, the porn stars, who also was another one. They said, I can't show my face. People will recognize me. You know, we're like, okay, the porn stars, the transgenders, all of this can come here to this site. It's totally anonymous. They were given numbers instead of names. You know, it's not incriminating. You know, we can get you tested and then also provide the training. And, of course, but the big immediate problem we saw was that the pimps were not bringing them down. And even if they would come down and be diagnosed positive, the pimps were forcing them to work anyway. So how are we going to get a loaded, so to speak, HIV prostitute off the street when the pimp is forcing them to do it? So I went back to Bradley and the sheriff, and I said, we need to set up a special system to where if they are being forced by a pimp, we can literally take them out a back door and there's security to protect them. But we also need a place to put them. We're going to need education, housing, medical, etc. And they said, okay, done. They pulled everything together, and we literally would do that. We would pull the prostitute into the back room, and if, there was a situation, you could tell they had a pimp. They were standing right there, hovering over them. We'd say, we need to speak to you alone. And then we'd say, what's going on out there? They'd explain. We'd say, do you want out of here? They'd, of course, explain, well, this threatening my family or this threatening my kid or whatever it was. And we'd say, we'll deal with it. Come with us. And then we would take them literally out the back door and into a program and get them out of there. And then the guards would take the pimp out the other door and address the situation that they were being threatened. So literally he helped us set up the first, sex trafficking program in relation to HIV. So, that was really groundbreaking. And then, of course, it was so successful that I got calls from back east. I got a call from Allentown, Pennsylvania, who explained to me that they had the same problem. They had a jail built for 200 prostitutes that had 2,000 in them, and they were also sleeping them in the cafeteria. And, please, could I come down and help them get something together? So, because they actually had higher HIV rates back east than California had. And we were quite dramatic. Our HIV rates in the first, when we first started these programs were like 80%. And then at the end of a year, they had gone down to 6%. So it was quite dramatic.
Well, let me ask you this really quick, and then I'd like you to pick right back up because this is important stuff. But are you finding that sites like Craigslist and things like that are making it easier to help these people who need help, or do you think that it's actually hurting things?
Well, again, history is a different perspective because I'll tell you, when Craigslist first started, nobody, of course, knew that it was a prostituted site except the John. Sex work has always been kind of under the current.
Yeah.
So, of course, I knew the ads were there, and they were advertising as massage, but the general population really didn't know. And you have to realize that people as a general culture did not accept sex trafficking until the year 2000. That was the Trafficking Act of 2000. So in 1995, when the Internet was born and about the same time Craigslist was born, this was off the general population's radar. The average Joe Schmo still didn't believe in sex trafficking, still didn't believe this stuff was real. So they really weren't noticing those ads on Craigslist. The only one that really knew were the prostitutes and the traffickers and also, of course, Craigslist and then, the Johns. The Johns knew, oh, wow, what this great new thing. Look at this. Okay. Now, when this first started, I thought Craigslist was the greatest thing since sliced bread because, you have to realize that I used to have to do everything by foot. I used to have to literally go out on the streets. I had to go into the massage parlors. I had to go into the strip clubs. And then if I got a call from Florida, I'd have to network with people in Florida. And if I got a call from Texas, I'd have to network with people in Texas. And it was a very laborious process, and you had to find people willing to do it. That was another thing. You're talking to people saying, would you mind going into massage parlors in Houston, Texas? And you're not going to find a lot of people to do it. So we would run ads on Craigslist, and we had great calls coming in off that. But one of the things about Craigslist that I just thought was the greatest thing ever, and I thought it was fantastic, is because it was off the radar. I would get these calls all the time from mothers, and they would say to me, my daughter's missing. I think she's in, say, Seattle. And they'd give me a photograph, and they'd say, can you help me find my daughter? Because one of the things that our group afforded us, besides the hotline and the program, was basically an underground railroad. That's what we were. It's because everywhere, every city there was, I've got prostitutes coming in off the street that are telling me fresh info, and they still have fresh connections. And I could literally go to our Seattle group, and I could give them a photograph, and I could say, have you seen this girl? And then I could also sit down on Craigslist, and I could look for her photograph. Uh-huh. And the amazing thing that I found when this first started was I literally could go into Seattle and start looking for the photograph, and about 9 out of 10 times I would find the girl. And I would then, call up the mother, and then what are we going to do? Well, the pimp's got her. So I would then get a mail from the area, and it's kind of ironic how they twisted my idea for that show 8 Minutes. But what we would do, of course, is the pimp wouldn't let it go anywhere. We couldn't get at her, that kind of thing. So we would have a male from the area pretend to be a John, and we would then, of course, get the girl to come up to the hotel room, and then, bam, we'd get a hold of her, send her back home. So I thought it was just the greatest thing, because I could run the ads. We had the phone ringing off the hook, from people that would see the ads, and they'd call in for help, or they'd call in to report that they saw a trafficking situation. Because that's the thing, in a true trafficking situation, the victim cannot call for help. They're being kept from the phone, or they're being threatened about what will happen to them if they go to the phone. So we would get the tips because they would know that we would not be coming in with a bunch of cops. I mean, like, example, you're working on the porn production, and you see that there's, somebody there who's being forced to be there. They've got this psychotic pimp behind them. You don't want a bunch of cops coming in there dealing with the situation, but these people wanted to help. So they would call me up, and they'd say, hey, there's this situation going on over here. Can you do something about it? Sure, no problem. We'd send somebody in, and we'd get over to her, get her out of there, or him, and we wouldn't be bringing in a bunch of cops. We would just get them out of there. And because of that, because of the fact that the people in the industry knew that we were not going to be coming in with a team of cops busting people, that we were just going to come in and deal with that situation, we would get tips from all over the industry, all over the country. And I could ask, have you seen this girl? And that was actually a very big negotiating chip for me, because literally if somebody said, oh, well, I've seen that girl down at this strip club down here. Oh, okay. So then I'd go down and I'd talk to the owner. Have you seen this girl? Yeah, whatever. And he'd give me his usual, well, it's not my business. Then I could say, look, we don't want to bring the cops down here to find her. So how about you just let me have her, and we'll leave and everybody's fine. Oh, okay, here, and then, so I found a lot of bargaining power by that, and we were able to really be effective. It was a beautiful system. Now, when I got this call, I'll never forget this call. This guy calls me up and he says, hey, I've got this really great idea. He said, we know that sex trafficking is going on Craigslist, so we're going to ban it. And I'm like, you're going to what? And he says, well, we're going to ban it. I said, do you have any idea what you're doing? I said, look, dude, I can get on there in like 2 hours and I can find a missing girl. Are you kidding me? You want to what? And he's like, he said, no, I want to ban it. And I'm like, I said, talk to me. I said, I would explain to him how I was doing outreach with it. I would explain how we were finding victims of trafficking with it, how we were finding missing girls. I mean, and this guy just wouldn't listen to me.
Yeah, because if you banned it, they're just going to find another way.
Well, this is what I told them. I said, they're just going to find another site. Are you kidding? I said, at least by leaving it alone, just leave it alone. We can dip in there and do what we got to do and monitor it, and they don't know we're monitoring it, And I mean, I begged this guy, please stop, don't do this, because I said, literally, all they're going to do is shift. And then when they shift, they're going to be alerted, and then because they're alerted, then I don't know what I'm going to do. If they're going to be off, on guard, what am I going to do? The guy wouldn't listen to me, and I couldn't understand why he wouldn't listen to me. It just confused the living heck out of me. Why is this guy not listening to me? I said, look, I can put you in touch with mothers that I found their daughter like in 2 hours, please don't do this, and he just wouldn't listen. Now, down the road, I found out what the agenda was, okay? The agenda had nothing to do with trafficking, nothing. And you know what? History proved that true. Because what happened is, the police started coming in with their warrants. And next thing you know, the word spread. Oh, the police are all over Craigslist, let's get out of here. Now, what that did is it created a situation now where you rarely find a real photograph anymore online. You only find a real photograph by maybe some teenager or some junkie or somebody who really doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But actual traffickers know that the police are looking. They will not put real photographs on there. They will not put addresses on there. They've now set up a screening. They're on guard. They're on point. and that's even if they're even advertising online anymore now at all. Because what has happened in the last about 2 to 3 years is that the traffickers have all gone offline. The true traffickers, the really organized trafficking in this country, has gone offline. You're not going to find them on Backpage. You're not going to find them on Craigslist. You're just not, because they know that everybody's looking and everybody's targeting them. So they're it's like magic. Magicians use distraction. So like, oh, okay, you go over there, we're going to go over here. Now, I'm not saying that prostitution's not on there.
I was going to say, because it would seem like that would be a huge boost to business, and it's like almost like drug dealers, giving up something that, it's like it almost seems like a lot of them would want to take that chance, but no, they wouldn't, huh?
Well, prostitutes, yes, which is why prostitution is exploding on sites like Backpage and Craigslist, because here's what they hear in that sense. And I'm going to make a distinction here that for your listeners to kind of make a difference here, because they've been going to be bombarded with a lot of media. So there's a lot of confusion going on right now, because this is what I've seen, is the media has been bombarding people with propaganda. And I'll explain more about why over the 30 years, like I said, that I've been doing this work, I've seen this. Mm-hmm. Now, you have what's called an independent prostitute. Let's say that somebody, she's a single mom, she's raising a bunch of kids, she just lost her job, the car's broke down, she's backed up against the wall, she doesn't know what to do at all. Now, she hears all this news on the TV about Backpage and Craigslist, prostitution. She hears this, and she goes, so she's like a part-timer, a little bit of a dabbler, that kind of thing. So she'll put an ad out there, and she'll, okay, I'm just going to pay the rent kind of thing. And she doesn't even really think of herself, per se, as a prostitute most of the time. Or you may get, say, a teenage prostitute who's trying to get away from home and trying to get enough money to get out. But again, we're talking mostly independence, that kind of thing. They hear this news, and they are drawn to that. And see, that's another thing I have discovered, is for the life of me, I could not understand all this publicity about this. And I started trying to talk to the owners. Craigslist and Backpage, and a lot of people are not aware of this either, is owned by the same company. Oh. It's owned actually by the Village Voice. And so, again, when all these lawsuits started hitting and all this press started hitting them, I tried to work with them. And I kept trying to talk to the owners. And for the life of me, I could not understand why they weren't talking to me. I had been using their site for years. I had been talking to them for years before all this stuff hit. And then all of a sudden it was like as soon as they got under pressure, with the lawsuit in the media, then all of a sudden they stopped talking to me. Didn't make sense to me for the longest time. For the longest time I couldn't understand it.
But it does now.
Oh, yeah, it took a while. and see, that's the thing, is I had to bang my head up against the wall for a while until I started realizing this is the same company, but they're presenting themselves like they're two different companies. And then what happened was some really big major lawsuits were hitting them, claiming that they were promoting trafficking. Okay, well, I then went to them with evidence and proof that trafficking was not taking place on their site, that only independent prostitution was going on their site, basically. And again, maybe there's somebody who's thinking they're a trafficker. You're going to get some kids, they say, oh, I'm a pimp, I'm a prostitute, that kind of thing. And they go out, yeah, you're going to get amateurs, junkies, that kind of thing that go on there. Oh, and, Yeah. So I went to them with proof, and I said, look, the organized, real traffickers, are not advertising on your site. I thought they'd be thrilled. I thought they'd be, thrilled. And then I got this really strange, perplexing, hostile reaction. That took me a while to figure out what was going on until I started talking to some people. So you got to realize our fellowship is quite large, but we're anonymous. In other words, there's a lot of ex-hookers walking around that belong to our group, but nobody knows they're there. So I started putting out the feelers, and I started talking to some people who worked at the company. And I said, can you tell me what's going on? I don't understand why they're not happy that I've got this information. Why are they blowing me off? And they're like, oh, you don't understand the campaign. What's the campaign? And this is brilliant advertising if you think about it.
Yeah.
They're getting so much publicity for people to run their prostitution ads off this press. It's not even funny. And they're plunking down a good penny for those ads. They're making millions off these prostitution ads.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to realize the war that's going on. That's the thing people don't realize. There is a war right now going on between the traffickers and the independents. The independents, who are not part of the trafficking rings, are the ones advertising on Backpage Craigslist, even though it's the same company, the Village Voice. Now, and even Redbook. The independents were advertising on Redbook. Okay, the traffickers are not happy about that. They want people working under them. Okay, so how are you going to do that? How are you going to get to them? I mean, if you think about it, most independent prostitutes, they don't have a pimp. They don't have office hours. They're not standing on a street corner. They're literally protected by the internet. They can screen their calls. So if you as a trafficker, how are you going to get to a prostitute? You're going to attack them at the source. And literally this is what I have found is happening, is that the owners of these sites, and not just Backpage and Craigslist, but there's other sites too like Redbook, what was happening was the traffickers were putting pressure on, their sites to shut them down so that the prostitutes would be driven back under their control. And I've got proof of this happening. I actually have an ad of a prostitute who got, thrown off, displaced by Redbook shutting down. She literally put an ad. I can't believe this. It's true, though. I have an ad where she literally said, I don't know what to do for business anymore. I need corrupt, law enforcement to come protect me. And then the traffickers came in and swooped her up and connected to her. And this ties into another there's a couple of cases going on right now where people have come to me trying to do something about the traffickers in this country. This trafficking ring that's operating now throughout the U.S., and they're literally getting the runaround by law enforcement all the way up to the U.S. Attorney Office, FBI. Everyone is blowing us off. And it's a very systematic way they're blowing us off and threatening us. So the traffickers have got the system down. They have control of the system. Literally, if you go to the police about what kind of trafficking, you're seeing going on, they have a very systematic way that they have to silence you and blow you off.
How
got it,
How far up the ladder does this go?
Well, that's the thing. It took me a while of banging my head up against every channel, to see that this is all the way up. Now, the only hope that I have right now at this country is I'm trying to get a hold of Loretta Lynch. That's our new U.S. Attorney General. I'm trying to get a hold of her. The last time I was making calls, she was in Italy. I was told, I had to wait till she got back, so I'm holding out some hope I'm going to get some action from Loretta Lynch. Because, to show you how this is happening and how it's not me, somebody came to me and said a couple of years ago, this is about 2.5 years ago, well, actually it was March 2013. I remember the month he came to me, and he said, I've got a woman who's a part of this trafficking operation that's operating throughout the country. And he said, she can't leave. He said, they've actually faked police reports. He said, when she said she wanted to leave the operation, she said she wanted to quit working. She's in her 50s, and she said she wanted to quit. These police officers literally carted her out of her private home in front of her mother and her son, and they slapped her with fake prostitution charges. And he said they're now threatening her that if she leaves, they'll execute the third arrest, which will deport her to China. And I'm like, okay, so she goes to China. Big deal. And he goes, no. He says, you don't understand. He said, there's connections back there that she'll get the death penalty. Now, what's a trip is, as he's telling me this, it sounds fantastic. But there was an arrest just last month. The man, I don't know how to pronounce Liang, L-I-A-N-G. There was an arrest last month of this man, Liam something. I can't pronounce the Chinese name. He was actually in the People's Congress, and they've tied him to a humongous trafficking ring back in China. He was operating out of the Crown Prince 5-star hotel. He was part of People's Congress. He was, He had 900 massage parlors, if I remember, something like that he was operating out of China. I mean, it was a huge operation. So that right there, is proof that this was, it sounded fantastic at the time to say that this trafficking ring can literally give her the death penalty if she's deported for leaving the ring. But now, now we've got the black and white arrest, which gives me hope in a way. I mean, there are people that are responding because, we started banging on doors and we started saying, this woman and all these women that are being trafficked around the U.S., that are from China specifically, are being told that if they're deported back, if they give them any trouble, that when they go back they're going to be executed back in China, because it actually is a death penalty back there if you're arrested more than 3 times for prostitution, or if you're arrested for madaming.
Wow,
so that's a pretty terrifying thing. And so these women are like, okay, whatever you say, boss,
So, well, hold on. So, I mean, this is literally what happens if a woman, or even a man, I guess, is busted
they've
3
converted over to men now. That's the thing. They have converted to men now
and
because of that, because of the press.
So if they're busted 3 times, then they would be executed in China. Is that?
This is what they were telling the victim.
Okay.
And to prove, that they had the power, they evidently, they were saying this guy, and he does. Now that the arrest went down last month, if you look at this guy, Liam, this guy that was, arrested, and his connections within the Chinese government, there's no doubt in my mind that this guy had the power to do that, to get them executed. Because that's what they were being told. And it was, you tell someone that, they don't believe you. They have to see it. So obviously people had been executed. And to prove the point, they handed me an article about a woman who got executed for being a madam. Because that's the thing. I went to go meet with the victim. I met her in a Denny's. And I said, I'm hearing this story about, you refused to work for these people, and they carted you off to jail, and they slapped you with a fake prostitution charge. Then they got you with a second charge where you keep fighting, and now they're threatening you with like a third charge. What makes you think they're really going to execute you back in China? And she asked me this article about this madam that was executed, and I just was floored. I didn't know they did that back in China.
And here, we are supporting all that by buying Chinese-made products here in the United States. So welcome to Walmart, folks.
Oh my God! I'm laughing because I tried to not buy Chinese products for a year.
It's hard.
God, it was impossible. I couldn't buy shoes. I couldn't. Oh man, it was a hard year. I felt like a raving lunatic. Everything was made in China, and I couldn't find anything that wasn't.
Yeah, that is a
hard
problem.
year. Try it sometime.
Even the
Try
American
to find
flag.
Chinese products. I'd be at the McDonald's, and I'd say, "Where are these toys produced at?" in the Happy Meal, because my daughter was young when I did this, right? And they said. And I'd hand back the toy, and they'd look at me like I was crazy. But that's the thing. They make it to where if you do protest, you look like a raving lunatic anymore,
Or racist, yeah. Here, one or the other. It's like, oh, you don't like Chinese.
My latest campaign, I set up a website at boycottsnoop.com. For Snoop Dogg, I have a website at boycottsnoop.com, and I got done setting it up, and my daughter said, they're going to call you racist, don't you?
Yeah, tell me.
Oh, God, I didn't even think about that, because it's not a racist issue to me.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, because my son, he says, well, what's wrong with Snoop Dogg? So what's wrong with Snoop Dogg?
Well, what's wrong with Snoop Dogg? Get me going on that one. Okay, look, I don't hold anybody's past against them, obviously. I've done some horrible things when I was back out there. And again, because I was being forced to, but still. And then, I'm no angel, so I don't hold people's past against them. And, 50 Cent used to be a pimp. I mean, he's doing great things with kids now. And Ice-T used to be a pimp. And, he talks about the amends that he made to women and how he tried to straighten things. I admire what he's doing, and I admire the way that he's trying to talk to kids. So I admire someone who, is a born-again criminal in a sense, you know what I mean, that tries to go out and help others. That's not the problem here. I'll tell you when it started. I got a call, minding my own business, but I have to set the groundwork here. MTV had come to me in 2003, and said, we think your work is fantastic, you know, so we're going to do a real-life documentary on you. They have these series called Real Life, and they said, we're going to come out, we're going to do a series on you, we're going to do a documentary, and we're going to run a whole public service campaign. We really want to get involved in this. And I'm like, okay, you know, so I mean, you know, I'm literally working on a campaign with MTV. I'm so excited. You know, I'm like, you know, they're going to run public service announcements, because I went to them. You see, the FCC yanked our public service announcements in 1995. They literally changed the law. So all of a sudden, my free commercials that used to run at 2 a.m. all over the United States was gone. And then I'd go to advertisers and I'd try to pay for advertising, and they'd refuse my money. They'd say, our other advertisers pay way more money than you, and we'd piss them off. So I couldn't even buy advertising. So when MTV was saying, we're going to run public service announcements in the youth market, I was thrilled, you know. And so I'm working on that. They said, okay, well, we can't get a crew out to you until, you know, June or something. I think it was June. They said, we can't get a crew out to you until June. And, you know, I mean, I literally had a schedule down. Everything was going. I'm minding my own business. And then I get a call from this politician. And I'm so angry at him right now, I'll name him, Joe Heck. I got a call from Joe Heck in Nevada. And he says to me, I got a call from one of my constituents, you know, and he said, there's a problem. And he said, we need you to help. He said, there's this girl, she's being pimped by this maniacal, you know, pimp with a really violent past, and, you know, he's really a bad dude, and we need you to go in and get this woman out. And I'm like, you're Joe Heck. Why are you calling me? You know, like, go get her, you know. Especially I'm hearing violent pimp with a criminal past. I'm like, you go get her, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I think he's a senator. You know, I said, you go get her, right? And he says, well, you don't understand the situation. I said, okay, tell me the situation. And he explains to me that, you know, Snoop's on this tour right now. And what he's doing basically is he's been, you know, they call it turning them out, where, you know, they bring him in, they turn them out. And then when he's done with them, then the other, like, quote-unquote real pimps, you know, the street pimps, the ones that are, you know, out there, you know, daily doing the real stuff, right? Then they're picking the women up, and then they're under their control. Now, this pimp supposedly has her locked up in an apartment. She can't leave. He's sold all the furniture for drugs, and she's now 4 months pregnant. And again, I'm going, so you go get her, you know? And he says, well, here's the problem. He says, if we arrest this guy, and he said there's a warrant out even on him. He said, if we arrest this guy, the first thing he's going to do is point over to Snoop and say that Snoop is, you know, he's operating under Snoop. And then we're going to have a real problem on our hands, you know? And I'm like, so? Like, is this my problem? Go get her. You know, I don't care if it's all over the press, right? And he says, well, here's the other problem. He said, if we go get her, he said, the way our laws are now structured is that in order to give her victim services, in order to give her housing, and in order for the police to help and everything, in order for us to help her, she has to be a witness, which means she has to prosecute somebody. And then he's going to turn around and Snoop, and then we're going to have the media all over this, and then he's going to come in and claim defamation, he's going to claim wrongful arrest, et cetera, he's going to sue us, you know, it's just going to, he said, we don't want to touch it. And I said, so basically what you're telling me, let me get this straight, is you don't want to help this woman because it's going to be a media nightmare for you, you know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, you know, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that's the way things work now in this country, and they have for a long time. Actually, is, you know, it's we've worked towards politically correct, so everyone's afraid to make anybody else angry or uncomfortable. And I say it like it is, and I don't care who you are on this planet, whether you're Snoop Doggity Dog or Chip the Cat, whoever you are. If you're doing things like this, you deserve to be in a prison somewhere. If not, if it was my daughter, I'm surprised we don't hear about more fathers kicking open doors and being vigilantes towards these pimps.
Well, that's it. The pimp, I mean, you have to understand the dynamics here. Is I said, well, what's the situation? And evidently, this pimp was threatening to kill her whole family. And I said, is this a legitimate threat? And they said, well, with his history of violence and his connections, yeah. And I said, does he know where the family lives? I mean, is this pimps threaten that all the time. You have to determine if it's real or not. I said, does the pimp know where her family lives? Yes, he does. Okay, so essentially there was a very real threat to the family if she left. I mean, because that's the thing. Let's say he leaves the door open. What's going to stop her from leaving? She's worried her whole family's going to be massacred. And that is a very legitimate concern. I've seen how this network operates. So, and that's the thing is, and rightfully so, he would have sued. I mean, this is 2003. This is before he confessed to this, okay? To the outside world, he is just a musician, Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, you got to realize, again, the public doesn't believe these things. All he has to do is go, I don't know, and I mean, and he's got a team of publicists, et cetera. So I can understand their nightmare. Now, I then say to him, well, can you give me any help at all? And he says, well, we've got to keep everything off the record. We can't have any record we're working with you. This can't exist, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, can you give me any help at all here? And he says, well, there is a warrant. He says, we can go arrest him, and then you can move in and get the girl out of there. Okay. So I then had to deal with the family, talk to them, and I said, I can't get her to leave if she's afraid you're all going to be massacred. So I said, can you guys move? And they agreed. She did have a father, but he's powerless. What could he do? So, all they could do was move. And I said, okay, you're going to have to move. And then the only person but you're going to have to move off the grid. You're going to have to make it to where they cannot find you, which is another thing. These kind of people have friends in the police stations. They have friends at TRW. They've got friends that can find you if you're on the grid. So I said, you've got to all move off the grid. That's the challenge. I said, are you willing to do that? Because that means leaving your job. It means leaving your house. I mean, and very fortunate, her family all agreed, which is not always the case. I get a lot of people that are not willing to leave their job for their kids to be saved, sadly. Anyway, they did move, and they told me their new address, and it was all off the grid, and then we executed the arrest. We got the pimp locked up, and then I was able to go in, and when I got a hold of her, this woman was literally, there was a chain to a toilet, and she was like handcuffed with a chain to the toilet, and she was allowed to move around the apartment. I mean, it's just fantastic, just stuff you see, right?
Yeah.
And then I got a flat tire. Now, you got to realize I'm living on SSI. I got a flat tire. I can't just go out and replace it. I literally called this politician, and I said, I got a flat tire. I got to get her to the bus station. Can you help me out? No, there can't be any record. I'm working with you. Oh, my God. Give me a break, So he says, get it from the family. Okay, great. Now I got to ask the family for money, and I know how that's going to go. They're going to say, oh, you're only doing this for money. I'm like, yeah, thanks a lot. So anyway, we got her to the bus station because I couldn't drive her to the state that she was supposed to go to because of the flat tire. The family said, we just spent all our money moving. I always hear that. Yeah. It's like, okay. But, the good news is I got a photograph a couple months later of the baby. I mean, and a thank you. And that, oh, my God, that was great.
That's awesome.
And I have to hold on to that because let me tell you, when I called back to MTV, and I said, look, Snoop's doing blah, 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 blah. And I said, can you help me talk to the organizers? I made this silly mistake of thinking the organizers of this tour did not know what he was doing. So I said, can you help me get a hold of his promoters, his organizers, so I can say what's going on? Literally, the person that I was talking to, the producer of our stuff, she was fired. I then called back and I said, what's going on? I'm supposed to have a documentary and public service announcements and yada, yada, yada. They went, we don't know you. We don't know who you are. We don't know anything about that. And I go, well, wait a minute. I heard about this big trafficking campaign. What do you mean you don't know me? And they said, oh, yeah, we're still going to work on trafficking in Sweden. I'm like, what? And they said, yes, we're doing a big European campaign. We're kicking off in Europe next year. And isn't that exciting? And I'm like, what? And they did. They launched their whole trafficking campaign in Sweden a couple of months later.
Well,
and I'm like, whoa, what a great, again, magician. It's like the magician. Let's distract him over here, you know?
Yeah, well, MTV, in my opinion, is trash. Just as many of the stations that are out there are.
They supported it.
Well,
they supported it totally.
Well, they do.
I'm talking to them, and they're going, well, whatever. We're kicking off in Sweden right now. You know what they said to me? They said, talk to us next year when we might do something in the U.S. Click. I'm like, they knew. Now, so, and you know what? And I said, because I said, okay, what about my public service announcement? And they go, oh, do you have a 501c3? And I go, whoa, hold it. I said, you guys know I'm not a 501c3. You know why. Well, it doesn't matter. Unless you're 501c3, don't bother us. Click. I mean, it's like, oh, God. So,
money
talks,
they
organized against him. Now, talk about, let me tell you something. I stepped into a briar pit with him I didn't even realize because I waited until, now, we did get more victims out from this tour. And we had to operate without police, without any press, because obviously he would deny it. No one wanted to touch it. So we went into effect across the U.S. to get more victims out of there. We got 7 victims total out of these kind of pimp things. Now, he then, in 2013, most people don't realize this, is 2013, here's what shocked me. I opened up Rolling Stone, bam, there's his confession. Right there, black and white, Rolling Stone. Yes, I put together an operation. Yes, I was a pimp. Yes, we operated all throughout the country. I'm going, what? I mean, he just flat out spelled it out, admitted it, everything.
And people put this guy in a spotlight. These dirtbags, they shouldn't get the light of day. And any of you parents out there,
not just people. Whoa, let me tell you, this is what it's not people. It is not people. Let me tell you what happened. After he made the confession, I went, whoa, that means I can talk about it now, and it's not the defamation lawsuit. They can't gag me now, because they could gag me with a defamation lawsuit. So I went, they can't gag me now. Now, there was a movie that was just opening up at the same time called Turbo. It was put out by Disney, and he was literally playing a cartoon snail pimp. I mean, I about fell off my chair. I was like, a cartoon pimp? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's all cute.
Now, the movie's opening. So I literally started organizing a protest of the movie. I started going to all the trafficking groups. And I said, he is playing a pimp. He has not apologized. Look at this article. I sent them the interview online.
And this was
at
Disney?
Said, look at this. He's not apologizing. You know, so I started to organize a boycott of the movie, you know, people out there protesting it. Let me tell you, this is not people. No. Here's what happened. The minute that I made a change.org petition, right, and I was, you know, petitioning the company to pull the movie out of the theaters, and I was petitioning the DAs to prosecute him for these pimping charges now that he's confessed. So in the minute that I started to circulate the petition and the news, okay, all of a sudden my Facebook account was shut down for 2 weeks. Bam. I'm like, okay, that's weird.
Makes sense.
Now, there was this woman, she ran the biggest trafficking group online. Her name was Lynn Robertson. She ran the biggest trafficking group at the time out there. And I went into her group and I posted the petition. And I posted it 2 in the morning. I do most of my things in the middle of the night. 2 in the morning, 2 minutes later, I'm not kidding you, 2 minutes later, she has deleted my post and she has blocked me from the group. Now that really threw me. I'm like, wait a minute, this man just confessed he's a pimp. He's got a pimp opening up in a Disney movie. Well, why are you deleting me?
And who was this again? So all the listeners know. This.
Well, there was a big trafficking group, you know, of people on Facebook. You know, some kind of anti-trafficking group. And it was being run by this housewife, supposedly.
Yeah,
named Lynn
supposedly.
Robertson. And I made the post in there about let's boycott the movie and the petition. And not 2 minutes after I posted it in the group, she deleted the comment and she blocked me from the group. And so, of course, I'm shocked. You know, I call her up and I go, wait a minute, this is a trafficking group. We're supposed to be actively doing something about traffickers. This movie is opening up, making pimps seem friendly to kids. He is not apologizing to the victims. He is not apologizing for what he did, and he's not saying he's changed. I mean, this is the flagrant bragging, you know, and I showed her the article, and she just blocked me, and I didn't understand. I did not understand. It didn't make any sense to me at all.
Well,
then my Facebook account got shut down. Then my websites got shut down. So it was like I'm not knowing what hit me, right? And then, of course, 2 weeks later, the movie's already opened. But I then started continuing anyway. But at the same time, something weird happened with this Lynn Robertson woman. She started going around to people within the trafficking community, and she started telling them that I was a con artist and a pimp, and I was psychotic, and I was crazy, and just all this kind of weird stuff. Now, it didn't make sense to me. This woman supposedly ran a group called Traffic Jam, which supposedly put together concerts to raise money for trafficking victims. So I'm thinking, why would she be doing this? So I went to the head of Traffic Jam, who was in Canada, and I'm complaining to him. I said, I don't understand what happened to this woman. She blocked me from the group. She's banned me. She's now smearing me all over the internet. I'm like, I don't understand, you know? And he goes, who? I go, what do you mean, who? He says, I don't know her. He said, you don't know her? and he goes, no. He says, he goes, that's not me. I'm like, whoa. I said, she's not connected to you? And he said, no. He said, I run Traffic Jam in Canada. He said, I don't know this woman. She's not a part of this. I didn't authorize. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. We're being catfished? The woman was a catfish.
Yeah.
You know? And she went on a campaign against me. I clocked her during this whole Snoop thing. When I was boycotting, initially, when I was boycotting Snoop, about the fact that he was not apologizing to the victims. He was not making any acknowledgement of the damage. He was playing it off as like all fun and games, which worried me. It worried me that the readers of this article are going to think, oh, Snoop's saying this is cool. That really worried me, right? So I wanted him to acknowledge it was damaging. These women were harmed. The women can't come forward. We've seen what happened with Bill Cosby. These women can't come forward and talk about it. So, and I'm trying to bring that message out. And I literally clocked this woman at spending 8 hours a day campaigning against me. And I even went to her in writing and I challenged her. I said, I want you to put half of this energy and time into Snoop rather than me.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't do it. Now, then somebody came to me. Now, this is where it got dark even. Somebody came to me and said, I need to send you something. And I said, okay. And she supposedly, this Lynn Robertson, she supposedly was in another group. And she was talking to a man that worked at Dynacorp. Now, there's a movie out on Netflix called Whistleblowers. And it's by a woman, Catherine Bolkovich, I think her name is. She talks about how she worked for the UN and she saw trafficking over in Europe in connection with Dynacorp. And that they were actively, involved in the trafficking, not just covering it up, but actively involved in trafficking over in Europe. And she wrote about it in this book, movie, etc. So I then look at the conversation, and it is quite disturbing. This woman literally is in this private chat group that this other woman, sent me screenshots talking to Dynacorp. I mean, this was not just some woman with a personal grudge. This was very organized and very deliberate, against me.
Yeah, and you'll find that when you are on the right path, when you're doing what you're doing, you do get people who are assigned to you, and I mean, they will spend 8 to 10 hours a day doing nothing but writing and trashing you. Believe me, I'm going through it myself with a guy who's supposed to be educated.
It was a personal grudge she had. And I said to myself, I've been angry at people. Sure, you're angry for a couple hours and then you let it go. That's why I said I sat down one day and I started adding up the time that it took to make these calls that she was making and these posts that she was making. And I literally started adding up the numbers of how much time a day this woman was spending. This woman was spending 8 hours a day, and literally just riling people up against me.
It's their job.
And I couldn't believe it. And like I said, the conversation with Dynacorp proved to me that this was not some housewife with a personal grudge. the guy at Traffic Jam, you know, I went back to her. I threatened her with fraud for saying that she worked with Traffic Jam. Of course, it came down. I mean, but, you know, the damage is being done. She's still running around to people. And then, of course, when I told people she doesn't work for Traffic Jam, she's not even connected with Traffic Jam. And the crazy part is I offered to show them the emails from the actual founder of Traffic Jam saying he had nothing to do with her. And they don't want to look. They're looking at you like you're a raving lunatic.
Well, of course.
Now, why I said it's not the people, though, is let me tell you, of course, I wrote letters to the CEOs of, say, Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and I asked them to pull his products off the shelves. And, of course, they ignored me. So I went to the local stores, the actual, like, local corner, you know, Walmart. And I then went into the manager. And I said, have you seen this interview with Rolling Stone that Snoop Dogg just did? No, I haven't. And I said, can I leave this with you? Would you mind reading it? And I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I said, can I get your fax number? And he was very calm, you know, because he doesn't know anything. And so I just asked him, would you mind reading this article? And he said, sure. So the next day I sent a fax over asking him, you know, and basically telling him, I'd say, I am not going to frequent your store, your particular store, as long as I see his products on the shelf. And then I called the guy back up, and I said, did you get my fax? And let me tell you, these people were pissed. They were pissed. They pulled the stuff off the shelves.
Good.
You know, they made their stand, of course. You know, corporate came back down and made them put it back. But what I was doing was I started organizing these little mini revolts in Targets and Walmarts and Best Buys. And the managers were going out and pulling the products off the shelves. I mean, people, that's what I'm saying. It is deceptive that people are supporting him. People are not supporting him. You know, it is the media that is giving that impression.
Well, yeah, you're right. And so he did the voice in a Disney movie, and see, so what you have, I mean, this is why I tell parents, you know, be more strict with your kids. I mean, these kids are listening to, they're glorifying these dirtbags who come out and make it look like it's cool to do cocaine and beat women and be a pimp, and hey, you don't have to.
There's a very specific reason, and you know what, you sound like a nut. But let's look at the evidence. Okay, first he comes out in Rolling Stone talking about what a great time he had as a pimp during this tour. And he's bragging. And now, are the cops swooping down to arrest him? No! The cops aren't swooping down to arrest him. We try to organize a boycott of the movie of this pimp character. I'm shut down off the Internet. And then I get this campaign against me. So, you know, but then I continue to dog on, you know, one by one. I'm going to the stores and I'm talking to these store owners. And you know what? They are yanking the stuff off the shelves. Yeah, they make them put it back. But they threaten to fire these people for standing up. Okay, they put the stuff back. But, you know, I'm getting my message out there. But then I start asking myself, I got to sit down and I'm talking to these victims and we're going, why is he doing this? Now, we had a theory. We had a theory that he did the interview because he was basically wanting to prove that he was untouchable. But why would he want to do that? Why would he want to prove to someone that the police are not going to come banging down his door for what he confessed to?
Maybe they blackmailed him.
And that's when we start going, okay, he's cooking something up. What is it? Bam! Then we see the Snoop Dogg Youth Football League. Oh, okay, this is becoming clearer. Because let me tell you something, in high schools right now, because of the trafficking awareness that we've been putting out, the security is very aware of pimps now coming on, because, okay, Craigslist, Backpage, whatever, they're shutting them down a lot, and a lot of the websites are shutting down, et cetera, et cetera. So what's happening? The pimps are having to go now offline. And where are they going? They're now, because of the connections of the Internet, the typical average pimp now is going into the high schools. Uh-huh. And now even the junior highs, from what my daughter is telling me. So they're literally, security's telling me that they're literally having pimps that are coming onto the grounds during the school hours to recruit. So they're trying to kick these pimps, you know, off the high school grounds. Now, again, you got to think to yourself, you're a pimp, you need to get on high school grounds, security's throwing you off. How are you going to get on the grounds? Hey, I got a football league, man. I'll make them come to me, you know. And I'm looking at this, and I watch what's happening with the football league. Now, I don't know if I can find the interview online, but I literally watched this interview on ESPN with his son. His son looks absolutely terrified. If you look at his eyes, his son looks terrified.
Well, didn't he have his own...
His son tried to warn us. His son literally told the interviewers, my dad is a bad man. And his son was saying, I want to get away from him. He is a bad man. He does not do nice things. And I see the interviewers like all chuckling, like they think it's a joke. And I really feel for this kid. This kid's trying to warn people, and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's listening. You know, and then I said to myself, okay, the cheerleader tryouts are going to come next, which of course did. And then 2 days ago, he announced that he's opened a medical marijuana delivery service. I mean, come on. Anybody can see this is an operation being built here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Hold on with us for a moment, because we do have to take a break. We are past our point here, Jody. So hang on for a moment. It's going to get quiet because I'm going to put you on hold, and we'll pick right back up where we left off. Folks, this is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. My guest tonight, saying it like it is, folks. That's what we do here. Jody Williams. We're talking about human trafficking. We're talking about, you know, you look at MTV, you look at these stations, all the TV stations, but let's look at MTV here for a moment and look what they promote. Let's look at a lot of these people who are up there in show business, like your Snoop Dogg's and your, even your Eminems and all these other guys. Look at these people. And then you got to start thinking about the Illuminati, which is supposed to be this big hallucination made up by conspiracy theorists. Well, these people get in a position. Look what they've done. Look what they're doing. Pimps doing voices for cartoon characters for Disney. And I try to keep it PG here, folks. I do. I try to keep this show family oriented. And I'll tell you what, I am really having trouble biting my tongue tonight. I am. It's disgusting to me. It really, really is disgusting to me. Why? This is what I mean, folks. It is you and I. It is we, the people, who allow this stuff. If we would stand up, if we would get a backbone and all come together, this would not be tolerated. Would you tolerate it in your home? Would you like somebody like the dog to come in and, take your daughter out and teach her the ropes on how to make him some money? Is that what you want? Oh, but it's okay. Take down the Confederate flag, but go ahead and sell Snoop Dogg CDs. I'm Michael Vera. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the L&M Radio Network. Want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the L&M Radio Network. L&M is always looking for sponsors, so if you are interested in sponsorship or advertisement on air or on our website, contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com. If you're interested in rebroadcasting or picking up the live feed for Late Night in the Midlands, then contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com and help us help you.
Hi, I'm Joshua Vera, and I wanted to inform you that Late Night in the Midlands is offering limited on-air advertisement. With 30 and 60-second spots available, or inquire about placing your banner ad on the LNM website. Or go ahead and package a deal, but either way, get the attention you deserve and join the LNM family. Contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com. Again, that email is mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com.
The L&M Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Imagine, if you will, a man, a media, speaking the truth. Imagine a show that covers UFOs, ET races, the paranormal, and the not-so-normal. A media that speaks the truth no matter who or what it leads to. Imagine, if you will, a media that covers everything. Folks, you just entered the LNM zone. LNM, keeping it real when others don't.
This is some dangerous, dangerous stuff. And you don't need some politician in a black, blue suit to tell you that aliens are real, or to tell you that UFOs are real, or to tell you that there used to be an atmosphere on the moon or Mars, because we have evidence of it, and we don't need them to tell us. And besides that, why would you want them to tell you? Because they've lied to you your entire life.
At Late Night in the Midlands, host Michael Vera takes a much different approach than most hosts do in an attempt to figure out what is really going on in the world we perceive to live. The show is not always about being correct, selling products, or putting his name in lights. Michael is concerned with the truth and connecting the dots no matter who and where they lead. I'm Ryan Gable, host of The Secret Teachings, and I approach my show in the very same way. Sometimes you think that in order to be the best, you must appear the best, but the truth has no need for appearance and masking. It just is. Information is not negative. It is how you view it that determines the dimensional characteristics of either dual aspect of negativity or positivity. In less words, it's intention. Even if you disagree with what Michael discusses, we should be able to have an open discussion without de facto fallacies of ad hominem name-calling and ridicule, not predicated on fact or reason, but on ignorance, pettiness, self-absorption, narcissism, ego, and fear. Try as you might, but no amount of disinformation, propaganda, ridicule, name-calling, or trolling on the internet will change the truth. The truth is the truth, regardless if the masses accept it as is, or if it is accepted by only one person out of billions. It is no measure of health to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. I'm Ryan Gable, host of The Secret Teachings, and you are listening to Late Night in the Midlands with host Michael Vera.
This is Late Night in the Midlands. Remember, folks, we cover everything. And if you think this don't matter, well, you are a bigger sheeple than I may have given you credit for if I had known you personally, because this is very important. And I'll tell you what, my blood's getting boiling here. I feel a rant coming on, but I'm trying to hold it. I really am. Maybe I'll save it for the end. Because I want our guest tonight, Jody Williams, to get every minute she can to speak tonight, because what she is talking about is very, very real. And there's some of you who are listening right now that probably have a son or two who's playing this music Right now as you speak, and it's time we send a message. Cartoon Disney, boycott them. All right, let's get back to it here. Again, my guest, Jody Williams. We're talking about human trafficking, very, very real. It could be your daughter. Don't think that it can't, because it can. It can be, and we hope to God not. But let's get back to it here. And we will take calls 803-317-2264. That is the number to call in should you choose. My guest tonight is linked up on the homepage of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. I do ask that if you do call in that you please keep it on topic tonight. Don't go getting off on no crazy stuff because we'll have to hang up on you tonight. But all right, so let's get back to it. And Jody, I was just saying how we've got to boycott. I mean, even Disney. If they're gonna let people like that, look at this girl who just came out. She does this Sam and Cat show on one of these kids stations on TV, and she was caught licking a donut and saying she hated America. Well, you know what? Let's show these people that America don't need them. That's what I say. I'm sick of these spoiled little rotten brats who they get pulled into the entertainment industry and they really become slaves themselves. They just don't realize it. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm
talking about actual, organized trafficking now.
Right.
And that anybody connected up under him, obviously, is being protected. Now, you've got to realize, here I've got a politician. I mean, at least I'll give this politician some credit for this, at least. He called me up and got me tipped off to what was happening, got me involved, and because I'm walking around thinking the police are going to handle this, and then they're going, no, we're not touching it. And see, this is what I've been talking about since '87, is that we have to change our legal system. We have to acknowledge that the fox is in the chicken coop right now, that they are running the system, and that these victims literally cannot go to the authorities for help, and that we need an alternative system of some kind. Which is like I said, now I started making headway. I started making ground, obviously. We got federal recognition for the fact that it existed, and see, I didn't realize at the time a lot of this stuff and the impact that I was having until I saw, like I said, the backlash. Because what happened was, obviously there was this backlash to where, what happened was, like I said, when I first started stepping up, saying we were real, we were treated about the same as the UFO kooks. Everybody laughed at them, ha ha ha, you guys are crazy. We had the same reaction when we talked about this stuff. Okay, well, so what I did was, at that time, the FCC, required that certain things be allowed to air. We were given cable time, we were given public service announcements time, and they had to devote, each station had to devote a certain amount of time to what was called opposing viewpoints. Now, what that meant is, and to show you the power of the media and the power of the difference, okay, in 1988, Joe Conforti, who owned the Mustang Ranch, decided that he wanted to open up ranches all over California. So he bought this medical study that made it appear, he rigged it, he made it appear that all brothel prostitutes did not have HIV, of course, during the HIV epidemic. That was his marketing hook. Then he went to a PR firm, and he put $1 million into a PR firm, and he said, I want to get brothels in California. He wanted them all throughout California. And now at that time, however, the FCC had a rule that anybody who was going to go on air talking about anything political like that had to have an opposing viewpoint. Now, everybody was terrified of this man. He shot this boxer down dead in cold blood, didn't do a day in jail, so everybody's terrified of this guy. So, the producers come to me and they say, he can't get on TV unless we get someone to go up against him. I said, fine, I need to promote my hotline. I don't care, So I then proceeded to do a whole year media campaign with this guy on every show there was. He'd parade around these women. And to show you the deception of the media, we did a Sally Jesse show where there were 4 women on there with him. And, of course, he's acting his pimp role. And these women are talking about what great fun they're having, how much money they're making, nobody's getting hurt, it's all a bunch of fun, and they're just beating the heck out of me on the television because I'm talking about what's really going on, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't mind. I got my hotline out there. And so at the end of this show, at the end of the taping, this woman comes running up to me that was just beating me up for an hour, and she says to me, "You've got to get me out of here." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" You know? And she says, "He drugged us. He drugged us on the plane at gunpoint. He told us that we had to say those things or else." She said, "There are women disappearing up there at those brothels. The police are backing him up." She said, "I'm terrified that I'm going to disappear with the others." She said, "You've got to get me out of there." You know, I'm like, "Oh, okay." So, you know, we literally got her out of there. You know, I talked to the producers. We made it appear that she was having a heart attack. We had an ambulance come, and the ambulance whisked her off to a safe house that I was working with in Chicago where the show was being filmed. So we got her out of there. Gave Joe a song and dance, you know, and got rid of her. Of course, he had to go back home. The producers got him on the plane, and that was it. Well, of course, word spread. You know, Jody's getting us out of here, you know, so... Because a lot of people really don't realize that there's no cabs out there where those brothels are. They make them be dropped off, and it's literally against the law for them to leave the property on foot. You cannot walk down the street. If you're a prostitute and you walk out of the brothel to leave, they will arrest you for walking down the street and leaving. Ooh. This is like unheard of to people. They're not aware of it. Of course, they don't promote this. So, you know, how are they going to get out of there, you know? Well, of course, you know, I started calling the authorities in Nevada saying, "Can you help these women?" You know, and they're laughing and blowing me off because, of course, a lot of them are on the payroll. So, you know, I moved to Nevada. And I started, you know, driving up there. I'd get a call from somebody saying, "Get me out of here." And, you know, I went and got them out of there. And, of course, they weren't too happy about it. But my point being, at the end of the year, when the vote came down for the brothels in California, we won. There are no brothels in California. Now, he put up a lot of money for this. But because the FCC required that opposing viewpoint, he didn't win. People know the truth when they hear it, when they know. So, you know, he goes back to California a little angry, obviously. But, you know, this is my point now. When the FCC changed this law, and now corporations can own the media, and now there is no more requirement for opposing viewpoints, and now there is no more community service programming. You know, I'm not up there anymore with victims telling their story. So, I mean, they've got control of the media now.
Well, Jody, I know.
So how important it is like, if there's something going on, I used to be able to go to the media and show them what was going on, and they would do it, like in the Chris Butler case, for example. We were able to go to the media and say, here's a cop using cops trafficking women, and they would be arrested. We used to be able to do that, but now we have literally even lost control of the major media.
Well, you know, and I know it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what you're trying to do and where you're trying to reach, but we've got a pretty good following here, and if you would ever want to submit something, you know, short and to the point, we'd be glad to run it on our station here for you. So just
absolutely,
yeah. Because I mean, I'm all for it, and my hat is off to the work that you're doing here, because this is very important. And even those who make fun of it, you know, you get out there, like you mentioned, a TV show there. The good news is that you got that information out there, and and it just shows who these people are behind these TV shows, that they have no backbone, and that they think it's all just entertainment, and but there's good people like you who take it serious and are doing what you're doing. So I thank you.
I think it was a lot about covering up, like this Duggar thing. Granted, they found out about it, they covered it up because of all the money in the show, and I used to think a lot of it was just a mistake until, like I said, this recent thing that went off with me, and I'm seeing a smear campaign unlike anything I've ever seen, because I took on this show called 8 Minutes recently. Now, like I said, up until recently, I thought maybe the producers were ignorant of the problems, maybe they didn't realize, maybe, you know what I mean? I really kind of did not think it could be deliberate until this show 8 Minutes came out. That changed the whole playing field. You know what I mean? I mean, I could see covering up. I could see not knowing what was going on in the back room, that kind of thing. But no, this show was deliberately crafted to deceive the public. And this is the second time they've done it on A&E and Bravo. 8 Minutes aired on Bravo, and they did it last year. The year before that, they did it on A&E, which is interesting you brought up Disney, because I don't know why Disney keeps coming up, but Disney keeps coming up for some reason. who owns, because I had somebody say to me, well, you know who owns A&E and Bravo, don't you? And I'm like, no. And they said Disney. And I went and looked it up, and I'm like, oh, wow, you know?
Oh, wow.
So,
I just did a one of their paranormal shows. I just did a small piece with them, with A&E. So, well, I hope they don't go down the wrong side there. That's not good.
Well, it's not just, that's the thing, is I've had to, I mean, there's good and bad. See, this is the thing. It shows up. There's good and bad everywhere. I mean, there's great people at Disney, and Disney does great programming. You know, don't get me wrong there. It's not like there's some evil, corrupt empire. But, you know, there was an arrest about a month ago, like 100 people with Disney got arrested for child pornography and child trafficking. That's what's insane. There's the church. The church has got bad people in it. I mean, there's good and bad everywhere. And that's, like, the point here, is that we've got to be aware of it. But I'm saying that what's different is from 30 years ago to now is that I used to be able to go to the police and get action. I used to be able to go to the media and get exposure. I mean, we've lost control. There is a serious problem going on right now. And like I said, it started taking root about 2.5, 3 years ago, and now it's really bad. Because, like, here I am looking at this stuff going on with Snoop in Los Angeles, and I'm going, okay, we've got a problem. And I'm hearing people saying, you know, all these things that are going on in the foster care system out here. You know, I'm hearing a story of a girl that literally disappeared out of the foster care system for a year. She was trafficked, and she was dumped back home after she got all used up and burned out, et cetera. You know, I'm hearing story after story, and nobody's doing anything, yada, yada. And she supposedly was kidnapped right off of the grounds of a group home, you know. And here's the thing is, you know, I already know from experience, I know that the authorities are not going to want to get involved in a case that's bad for them, bad exposure, bad press, obviously, that they don't want to take on. So, you know, I know this, and I'm thinking to myself, how many kids might there be right now in connection with this operation that's going on right now that they're going to the police and they're hitting a brick wall and they don't know why, or the parents are hitting a brick wall and they don't know why? Because here's, like I said, what started happening. I watched, you can go online and watch this. You can go online right now and you can watch the broadcast of the July 14th Board of Supervisors meeting in Los Angeles. And on that meeting, 2 people got up at that Board of Supervisors meeting. One was a mother, and she said that her children were taken away from her, they were turned against her by the foster care system, and that they were then exploited and trafficked, and that she managed to get them back, and she's working on getting their heads straightened up. Now, this is not a crazy lunatic-sounding mother. I mean, you can look at these kids. Anyone can look at these kids and tell that these kids have been traumatized. These kids have really been through the mill. The mother looks exasperated, and she's saying, why is nobody investigating what happened with my kids? Then there's an older man. He gets up at this same meeting, and he said that he knows that the pimps are going into the foster care homes, and they're actively recruiting, you know, for the sex trafficking, and that no one is investigating. And he literally pointed at this one supervisor, and he said, you know this is going on, and you're doing nothing. And they carted this man right off the podium.
Wow.
Now, so, I mean, and so you think to yourself, like, everyone's assuming that they're going to the police. But look, no. Because here's the thing is that I started going to, I mean, like I said, this woman that I talked about, this case that started really showing me how things changed, this woman's had 2 fake police reports. Now, if you go online, you can Google that a Pasadena police officer was bragging about how he could frame people for homicide if he wanted to. And that tape leaked out. So there's a problem in Pasadena, obviously, and I've got these fake police reports to prove it. And I'm talking to this witness, right? And she's like, I want to get my record cleaned up so that I can break away from this operation. I don't want to be deported, etc. So I said I would help her. I mean, it's what I've been doing, you know. Like, so we get an attorney, and the attorney then says to me, well, we can order the booking tapes. He said whenever anybody's arrested, there is a videotape of them being booked. And he said, so I'm going to order the videotape. He does. He goes, you know, sends in an order letter to the police. Next thing we know, we're getting threatened by an attorney. How does this attorney know this? The attorney calls up, the lawyer calls us up, and he's threatening with restraining orders. He's threatening with filing a complaint with the bar, yada, yada. It's like, what's going on? He's claiming that this woman is his client. It's not true. I mean, it's just, obviously, it's baloney, right? Yeah. And then, so the attorney then turns to me and he goes, I don't need this. Here's your money back. I'm walking away. He said, anybody this connected, he says, you need to walk away from this, which is what we're seeing. Anybody with a job, anybody with a marriage, anybody with a reputation, like this politician I'm saying who says that he doesn't want to be involved. Anybody like that, they don't want to get their own neck. I mean, look at what I went through with MTV and people smearing me. Nobody wants to take this on. So, and it gets more than just smearing. I mean, there's if you look up Paul Tanaka in Los Angeles, they literally lost a witness in the jail for days. Then when the FBI tried to get demand that the witness be returned, she got threatened with being arrested. I mean, there's FBI agents, there's U.S. attorneys, there's judges. They're all being threatened. So, they're like not wanting to touch this thing, They don't want the bad press. They don't want the flashback. They don't want their careers ruined. They've got people showing up at their houses threatening them. I mean, everybody's running for cover. So, I go back to the victim and I said, we got a call from this attorney telling us to back off. She said, I don't know anything about that. Next thing I know, the lawyer's calling her up and he's threatening her that if we meddle in her case that we're going to get her sister arrested and her sister deported. And he starts running her up the flagpole and he starts telling her that he's working for the traffickers, He starts telling her to let him handle it and he'll expunge her records. He then lies to her. He says that he has expunged her records. Well, I didn't believe it, so we ran her records. He didn't expunge the records. He's lying to this poor woman. Huh. So I go back to her with the records to show her that she's been lied to. She still has these records and that this man obviously can't be trusted. I then get a threat from a police officer. He calls me up and he says, if you speak to the victim again, I'm going to file a restraining order and stalking charges against you. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I've got a victim calling me for help and you're threatening me? So then, now I've got a tape recording of the call. He's identifying as a police officer. I'm thinking, well, just go to the police chief. Nope. He's ignoring me. I then go to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs then announces, and you can Google all this stuff, that they are now burning all the files for the last 5 years. The mayor and city council objected. They had hearings. They tried to stop the burning of the files. Couldn't do it. So I'm thinking, okay, I can't go to the police chief. I can't go to Internal Affairs. City council and mayor has no power. So, I go to the city attorney. I go to the district attorney. I go to the U.S. attorney. Every door I knock on is blowing me off. And you're going to love, I'm getting ready. I'm trying, it's time consuming. God, I wish I had help. I got a letter from the FBI, an FBI agent. And he said to me, everything you're describing fits the definition of terrorism. And he said, if this was ISIS or Iranian, he said if it was them, he said, or Muslim, he said, I could be all over this. He said, we could have a task force at your door to deal with this. He said, but because it's involving Asians and African Americans and white people, he said, there's nothing we can do. I'm like,
wow.
What? He said, yeah. He said, because it's not from the country that it's supposed to be on, even though it fits the definition, and I mean, this is what I said. Now, I then created as best, like you said, go to your listeners. I created a huge social media campaign against the California U.S. Attorney General. She kept telling me that she couldn't do anything about this trafficking ring because it was too big and she needed more money. I said, no, you don't need more money. We have an existing system that works just fine. Somebody just has to arrest somebody. That's it. That's all we need is a cop to arrest somebody. And you don't need more money for that, right? So she says, I don't have the legal system. She starts giving me the song and dance that, a lot of people might have fallen for. she starts saying we don't have the laws in place to deal with multi-jurisdictional and yada yada. She starts doing, and I go, wait a minute, honey. I said, I've been a paralegal for 30 years. We have the RICO laws. We have every law in place to go after these people. And she goes, oh. And I said, now, what are you going to do about this? I'm running for Senate. Here's my campaign button. I'm like, okay, this is her answer.
Wow.
She's bailing. I mean,
so
I mean, yeah, we got a problem. I've gone all the way up. And then I go to even Nevada with the corruption that's going on in Nevada. I start pounding on the door of the Nevada U.S. Attorney General, and I show widespreading, huge fraud that's going on, and children being I mean, you know, I'm showing black and white documentation. And you know what I find out? She says, basically, well, she blows me off. So I then get her assistant to talk to me, and I'm like, I don't understand. I've got everything you need here for widespread arrests. You know, what's wrong here? And she says, you don't understand what the agenda is. I go, what's the agenda? You know, and she says, for all these money that these groups are raising fraudulently, she says, we get dollar matching from the federal government. So she said, the more money they rip off, the more money we get from the federal government. Oh.
What a crooked ass
Then
system.
they explain, the more people we've got in jail, the more money that we get to build bigger jails.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. I mean, I don't get the agenda. Oh. Got it.
This is incredible. So this goes right up now. I had read in some of the information that was sent over to me is that the CIA was actually busted being a part of this.
Oh, they've been a part of it since day one.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what I said. I mentioned Iran-Contra, and, you know, everybody runs for cover, you know, because, yeah, the CIA's been, and, you know, this is what I'm seeing is I know the signs because, like I said, in the late 70s, early 80s, you know, that cocaine did not get into the country by itself, you know.
No, and it wasn't just tunnels.
You know how it worked. There's a documentary out called Cocaine Cowboys. You start to get an idea if you watch that movie, Cocaine Cowboys 1. You have an idea how Iran-Contra worked. But what they leave out of the documentary, they talk about the boats and the planes coming in, but they leave out is that the CIA was orchestrating all of this. You know, and that's again where it ties into sex trafficking, is that a lot of these oil deals, you know, some of these Saudi guys, there was oil deals and then there was the drug deals.
Yeah.
And the Colombians liked white girls and the Saudis liked white girls, and so they would be loading these girls up on these diplomat planes, and so they wouldn't be stopped, and they'd be gone. And I'd be literally down at the airport tarmac screaming for security, saying there's women on that plane, you know, that don't want to be there. And they're all ignoring me, and they're all, you know, and then, like, you know, I start realizing the CIA involvement when, you know, I'm raising all hell, demanding they stop the plane, somebody arrest somebody, you know, all that kind of stuff. Finally, this one man I knew from the CIA, he comes over and he says, you're not looking at it properly. And I said, what? And he said, you have to think of it as they're sacrificing for their country. What? You know, like, you know, I mean, he says, well, soldiers do it. You know, and I'm like, soldiers basically know what they're getting into. You know, there's some kind of consent usually involved here. You know, even if they're drafted, they could run off to Canada. I mean, there's still some kind of consent. You know, these women are not consenting, you know?
Yeah.
And men, you know, like I said, sometimes they like boys. But, yeah, the CIA was very heavily involved in orchestrating the influx of the drugs. And then what I saw was a lot of this fake media. You know, they kept blaming the African-American gangs. And, see, a lot of people don't realize what the riots were really about. And they were literally, these huge media campaigns, they were breaking down their houses with battering rams and putting it on the 11 o'clock news and saying it was the gangs that were, you know, doing all these drugs. And no, you know, these kids couldn't even drive a car. They weren't getting in these planes and boatloads of all this drugs. This went all the way up, you know. Yeah. And they've admitted now that the money was being used, that they raised from the drugs, the money was being used to buy guns for the Contras. And then some of it also was, there was a lot of oil deals that were having to be negotiated back then. That was big in the 80s. So this is, like I said, with the women. Now, when they came to me, you know, you got to imagine, how's the drugs going to get from the pier to South Central gangs into the homes of Hollywood producers?
Well, CIA deliveries.
Well, that's where they come to me.
Yeah.
And they, you know, and actually it was in the purses of hookers. You know, is they would sit down and, you know, they would train these, you know, beautiful escorts, you know, in the drugs, how to use the drugs, how to prepare the drug, etc., and then send them out into these producers' homes, these directors' homes, these celebrity homes, you know, and the parties. And I mean, it all seemed unplanned, but it was very planned. You know, and of course the women were like, in a sense, mules. It was in their purses, and they got the men, you know, intrigued on it. And you see the effect. You see the movies that were being made and the films that were being made, all glamorizing this drug, you know, and of course it creates a demand. You know, granted, it was a legal demand, but still, you have a product to sell. They had to create demand.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's all one big. I mean, it's all connected. A lot, you know. And we try to point that out a lot here. I mean, we're one of those medias that, you know, we don't hold back. We like to get the truth out, no matter what it is.
Well, let's get it out there, because what they were doing was, while they were, you know, they were basically blaming these African American gangs for the drugs.
Yeah.
Rick Freeway Ross has written somewhat of a book about it. I mean, they avoid the sex trafficking topic entirely, but they at least are talking now about Iran-Contra, the drugs, CIA, etc. But, you know, they're blaming, that's why I said the riots were that they kept, there was so much racism and blame. It's the blacks that are doing it. It's the blacks that are making the drug epidemic. You know, they rebelled. They you know, there was this frustration because they're being portrayed horribly in the media. And, of course, there's these young white cops coming out of the force, and they're seeing this stuff on television, and they're buying into it, and they're doing, you know, things like beating up Rodney King. And, you know, there's this huge backlash. Now, I know what's behind it because I'm on the other side of the curtain, so to speak. I know that it's all a smokescreen and distraction from what they're really doing down at those piers and what's really going on in these back rooms, you know? And see, so I know the pattern. I know the textbook because I've been there. So that's why I started noticing it happening again. You know, I mean, I noticed the same thing, the racism starting to pop up again. I started noticing these fake staged, you know, riots, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's all happening again. There is another plan afoot. And, you know, people don't watch C-SPAN a lot. I do. You know, because I realize a lot of it's distraction. So I remember watching the C-SPAN, and they were talking about, how do we invade a country that doesn't have a weapon of mass destruction? I don't know. How do we invade a country without a weapon of mass destruction? You know, and they were saying, well, we have to invade it on a human rights issue.
Yeah.
Because here's what I'm trying to understand. I am the founder of the modern-day trafficking movement. I'm the founder. I am the first person that stood up and said, sex trafficking's real, and we have to do something about it. Here's a hotline to call. We have a system to help. And I pounded, like I said, from 87 to 2000 till we got federal recognition. I'm the one that did it. I'm the founder. Nobody else was around there but me. So now, like Bill Wilson invented Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So all of a sudden, let's imagine in those terms, all of a sudden somebody starts talking about alcoholism and alcohol treatment, but they're acting like Bill Wilson doesn't exist. They're not even acknowledging he exists. You know, because this is what starts happening around 2007. The weirdest thing happened in 2007. That was the moment, I call it the hijacking. I had some people come to me. Melissa Farley was one of them. And she said, we need to, you know, get some more laws passed about trafficking. We need to get some more things in place, etc. I'm it. I'm the hotline. I'm the group. I'm the most reputable group that there is, etc. I'm the Bill Wilson of AA for sex trafficking. I'm the founder, right? So she says, we need your credibility. We need your name. We need your help. You know, she says, I've got to put this report together for the State Department on trafficking, and we need to include when it's legal, like in the legal brothels in Nevada. She said, you're the only one working with prostitutes out of the legal brothels in Nevada, so we need your help. And I said, I don't want to do any TV right now. I'm going to get myself killed. And she's, oh, no, we're going to protect you. We're going to stand behind you. She gives me this whole song and dance. And she starts selling me this whole bill of goods. She says, you know, we're going to get you a budget and we're going to open you up a center. I mean, you wouldn't believe what this woman did. She took me to an architect's office and they showed me drawings of a center they were going to build us in the desert where we could rehabilitate victims. I mean, they're giving me a song and dance, you know. And she says, we're going to put together this international press conference to release the report. You know, we need you to let us interview these victims and yada, yada. Okay. So, I mean, I'm getting this whole song and dance about how the system is going to change and this is going to happen and we're going to start this national program. And, I mean, I have no reason not to believe it. There's politicians here, architects, lawyers. I mean, I'm okay, you know. So she puts together this press conference, and I've got clippings to it, you know, on my website at hightechmadam.com. And the people that we interviewed, you know, for the report, she says they have to come on to the press conference to say that they said it. Otherwise, people will claim we made it up and it's all fraudulent, you know, that kind of thing. I'm like, really? We got to drag them in? She says, yeah, we've got, otherwise they'll just say we're lying and we faked it. So she says, the victims have to stand up and say, this is real, this is true, you know, we back this up. Okay. So we organized this huge big press conference. They had everybody there, even from the BBC. And we had the report ready, etc. And they literally have me mic'd up. I mean, I've got the mic hooked up, the lights are on me, everything. And Melissa comes over to me right as we're supposed to go on stage. And she says, I need you to say a few things. I'm like, what? She says, I need you to say that you want to outlaw the whole industry. Why would I do that? You know, now you have to understand, okay, let's imagine bootlegging, all right? You know, alcohol is bootlegging, right? And let's say that people are ripping off bootleggers. Well, under the law, you can't rip off a bootlegger because they're a criminal and it's an illegal product.
Yeah.
Well, the only way that I'm going to get help for sex trafficking victims is prostitution can't be a crime. I'm not going to get witnesses to come forward if they're going to be an accomplice to a crime. I'm not going to get witnesses to come forward if they're going to be arrested. You know, I mean, you know, there's just laws that are, I need it to not be a crime. So I'm thinking, why would I want to make it more of a crime? You know? And then she says, and then I need you to say that all prostitution is rape. And I go, this is not the point. The point is that trafficking exists in every field. I don't care if it's manufacturing, farming, hospitality, you know, jewelry, sex. I mean, trafficking exists in any field. Not all of it. That's like saying that all farm workers are trafficking victims. This is not true.
Right.
Why would I? So I'm looking at her going, why would I say this? I don't understand. She says, well, I need you to say it. I said, I'm not going to say it. You know, and she just, I mean, I didn't no idea what I was in for when I said no. I said, look, if I say all prostitution is rape, then the prostitutes that are not being trafficked, that are making the choice to be out there, are going to think I'm a raving idiot, laugh their ass off, and I'm going to lose all my credibility. Now, I made this movement happen because people know I don't lie. If I lie, I lose all my credibility, I lose everything.
That's right.
So she says to me, she says, you're going to be the head of this organization. She says, we need you to get along. We need you to back us up, etc. You have to say this. I said, oh, you're threatening me on that level. You're going to take away the center, the money, etc. I says, I'm not going to lie. Okay. So I get up and I do my spiel. Now, what I don't realize is that Melissa was taking people out into the hallway, these reporters. I don't know what's going on. I think she's just talking to them privately. I go home and I turn on the news and I hear Jody Williams calls for outlawing of the industry. All prostitution is rape. Oh, I mean, now this woman has just painted a bullseye on me because I'm in Nevada and she's saying that I'm calling to outlaw all of prostitution. That means that she just sicked the whole Nevada brothel mafia after me. And I'm the only one left in Nevada. They've all flown home. She literally painted a bullseye on me. I get on the phone and I start screaming at her, what have you done to me? Literally by the next morning, let me tell you what happened. By the next morning, my power has been cut off. My car has been trashed.
Wow.
I'm in a gated community. I have security. My car is trashed. My power is cut off. The lines to my phone, my cable, my internet are all cut. I mean, literally, yeah. The war is on. She declared war on me with this, right? But I didn't understand the whole agenda. You know, now, of course, the CIA has been carefully crafting this, and they just passed a $1.5 billion something. I don't understand all of it, but it was $1.5 billion to fund trafficking centers in Colombia, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, this is all very carefully crafted. It's a different version of Iran-Contra, but they're now using the trafficking thing basically to get more off-the-grid money. Because how convenient. Whenever anybody says, well, what kind of work are you doing with this money? Oh, it's confidential. I mean, you know, they found, oh, man, you know.
Yeah.
Which is why you're seeing there are so many fake groups out there right now. There's fake centers, fake outreaches, fake, and it's all, and the sex industry itself is rebelling. They're going, all this is a lie, it's all propaganda. Yeah, it is, because it's like a new version of, instead of like them using the drugs to raise the money, they're raising the money through this trafficking thing now.
Yeah,
you know?
and we're finding, these fakes, these plants put in everywhere. I mean, even in radio, and we already know about television, but even alternative radio, there's shows out there that are, I mean, they're just fronts. They're fronts to, to roll in dough and roll in the dough, I should say. But
well, that's it. Again, people think there's alternatives. Now, here, let me tell you, this is a funny thing. My ex-husband actually is on the board for public radio. So I think, okay, I've got to shoe in my ex-husband's on public radio, and I'm, go to him, knock on the door. Hey, let's talk. I want to talk about this. Oh, no, we can't talk about this. What do you mean we can't talk about this? He says, ooh, and what happened was is he started to try to let us get on air, talk about it. We had an audit. The IRS came in and they are ripping them to shreds. I mean, this is another thing.
Hey, they did that.
Yeah.
They did that to me too. I had fought with the IRS too because boy, they just they were coming after us. I mean, with all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah, because I have seen this systematically, and like this public radio. He starts to put something together. We start to go on air, bam, all of a sudden IRS is there banging on the door, tearing everything apart, threatening to shut them down. Now, after this happens, the umpteenth time, you start realizing a pattern. And that is, anybody that is starting to stick their neck out that isn't part of this agenda, they're getting the IRS on them. We have a donor, oh my God, this man is a saint. Let me tell you, Michael, oh my God, I wouldn't even have my phone on if not for this man. There is a man, see, they get me fired. They get me evicted. I mean, they do everything they can to silence me. They shut down my sites. So how am I supposed to operate? How am I supposed to even keep my phone on? I mean, there's this man who came to me about this woman, and said he wanted to help this woman. I said to him, if I stick my neck out, I'm going to trigger the bear trap. They're going to come after me again, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I'll take care of it. I go, what do you mean you'll take care of it? He said, I'll give you whatever you need. I'm like, you're kidding me. And he goes, no. He says, I'll give you whatever you need. And, I mean, Grant, he's not a wealthy man at all, not by a long shot. I mean, and he squeaks out this money, but he keeps our phone on. I mean, he gives me my postage. I mean, he gives us our basic operating money. And this is not a wealthy man. And he's had the IRS tearing him to shreds for this. And this man's a saint.
Oh, yeah, the IRS is the mafia for these New World Order types. I mean, that's what they do. When you start getting in the way and the truth starts coming out, they sick their little guard dogs on you, the IRS.
Yeah, and show you how crazy it is. They come after me, the IRS and the state of Nevada. Literally, both come after me, and they said, we're putting a case together to lock you up for 6 months to a year for operating a business without a license. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And they said, you're operating a business and you don't have a license. And now, granted, I don't. I didn't at the time, because that's the only way to protect myself from audit. Because this is what I'm hearing, is that the minute you become a 501c3, then IRS comes swooping down and wants to audit your records. So now another thing of the 12 steps is they're recognized as you know, not being organized. So as a 12-step group, I don't have to be organized, you know? And so to protect our members and to protect the identity of our members, you know, I've not incorporated. So then they turn around and they start threatening me with jail because I'm not incorporated. Well, again, I'm very lucky I'm a paralegal, because I said, well, first of all, to be operating a business, I have to be charging something. And I said, I'm not charging anything. They said, oh, no, you can be operating a business without charging. You can just be setting up as a business and saying you're a business. Oh, okay. So even though I'm not charging, you're going to tell me I'm a business and lock me up for this. And they said, yeah, as long as you say you are. I said, according to the letter of the law, I have to be deriving a certain amount of my income from this business in order to be classified as a mechanic. So I start throwing, you know, the law back at them. That kind of confused them for about 5 minutes. And then they came back and they said, no, we're going to do it anyway. And I'm like, oh. This is why I said media like yours comes in handy. Because I turned around and threatened them with going to the media that I do have and say, you know what, I'm going to tell them that you're locking up the founder of Sex Workers Anonymous for not having a license because I'm not making any money. I'm going to tell them that you're doing this. And they went, you can't do that. And I said, yes, I can. And they backed up.
And Jody, we've got a call, and that's fascinating. I'm glad you're getting this out, because people need to hear how dirty they play, because I don't think they believe it. So, well, we've got a call. We've got Matt. Matt's in Canada. Matt, welcome aboard. A little fuzz back there, but I think we'll get through it.
Hi, Jody. Sorry, Mike, I got a couple of fans going here.
Oh, that's all right.
Not cool, if you know what I mean.
Well, it is a little
Which
cool.
is rare in Canada. We get about 2 weeks of it, so we enjoy it.
But welcome aboard.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Hey, Jody. Do you see is there any legitimacy to the whole prostitution industry? Like, is it okay if the government creates a red light district and allows these people that want to work in this industry to work?
Well, okay, let's just go with, theories are one thing. Let's go with fact. Amsterdam started shutting down its red light districts, its legal districts, in 2007. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Any industry has trafficking, and especially an industry where there's a lot of cash involved, and especially the kind of characters that hang around. Now, a lot of people, I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, thank you, because a lot of people think that I fought Joe because I'm against prostitution. And believe it or not, I'm really not. I'm really not. If it came down to the only way a woman could feed her kids is by giving some guy a blowjob, power to her. Okay, but that's not what this is about. Okay, this is about the way that the legal industries operate. The stories I could tell you about what goes on in the legal brothels and the way they treat the women, it is horrendous. And the women can't charge for sexual harassment. There's no such thing. They can't charge trafficking. So the press conference I gave in 2007 was over the fact that there is trafficking in the legal brothels, and people don't understand the concept. They think because it's legal that trafficking can't exist, because they don't understand that trafficking has nothing to do with legal, illegal prostitution, not prostitution. And this is why, and we referred to the Amsterdam red light district, that there's trafficking within the legal brothels. But the problem is again, it makes it harder to get help to the victims when it's legal.
Does it become trafficking?
You know what I mean? All the owners then band together. And I'll give an example. Let me just give a quick example. There's a woman who came to me and she said that she was being drugged and raped by cops at a legal brothel in Nevada. And she can't file a police report, about it, because the owners are going to keep her quiet. What do we do here? Now, if this even was a street prostitute, I could probably file some charges against these cops for drugging and raping her. But because now the brothel owners are stepping in and keeping her quiet, I'm having even more of a problem. So the way that the legal industry is structured, it makes it more victimizing of the women.
So when you say victimizing, this is not when you say they're it turns into like exploiting the women when it goes to that level.
The way the legal industry is set up is then you start bringing in more corruption and more covering up, and then the women are even more buried within the system of getting help and protection. We don't, and they don't have the laws in place. For example, there's no workers' comp.
So what would work? What would be a solution? What would be a solution to this problem?
Decriminalization.
Decriminalization.
Yeah, I'll give you right now
would you
in
go
Canada.
Would you go as far as a registry?
No, because again, that can be used for blackmail. And I'll look at the facts here. The facts are right now in Canada. There's a very little trafficking going on in Canada right now. To be perfectly honest, there's very little trafficking.
Well, I haven't come in contact with it, if that's any consolation.
Yeah, there's huge trafficking in the U.S. right now. And I think of it like alcohol. When alcohol was illegal, you had bootleggers. You know what I mean? So anytime you've got the illegal thing, you've got more of that element. But then,
but you can also take an example like Italy, where alcohol got the lowest level of alcoholism per capita, like for a country, and its drinking age is like 14. So that's one of those things that kind of just makes it go. It's not anything that it's not proof or de facto anything. It's just one of those things that makes you say, and does that mean that if you Amsterdam took the same approach to drugs? Let's legalize everything. Then we everybody does their crap over here. If they're a junkie, they're over here.
Right, but see, now it doesn't work with prostitution. That's why they've been shutting down the Windows District over there, is they thought it was the same as drugs. It's not. Because when you're dealing with sex, it is a different issue, and it's a different element and a different type of person. Okay, for example, look at a medical marijuana pharmacy. You're going to have a totally different kind of person operating that than operating a brothel. Okay, so the laws are different on certain levels. Now, to give you an idea why it being illegal is such a problem, I took a woman who had been stabbed 51 times, literally stabbed 51 times. She knew who the Hillside Stranglers were. She knew their shop, their address, their names, etc. They were pimps, that started out, and then they started murdering. And we went to the Hillside Strangler Task Force, and she had just been stabbed. She's all stitched up, and we told them this is where they live, this is their names, etc. And they threw us out. Now, while I'm being thrown out of the task force, of course I'm yelling at the director, I don't understand. Why are you throwing us out? We know everything about where these guys are. He says to me, we cannot get a warrant based on the word of a whore. Now, of course, I was insulted for a while until I talked to my lawyer, and he says, it means criminal. As long as you're a criminal in the eyes of the law, your word doesn't mean anything, doodly. Right. So therefore, you're not a reputable witness. You cannot file a charge, etc., and that's why the guy is saying that. Now, the Johns aren't going to file, any complaints either, because then they're going to, be exposed.
And their wives will find out.
As long as it's illegal, if it had been not illegal, they would have swooped down on those guys right away. Now, but the problem when you run into legal prostitution is then you take that same trafficking element. And look at Nevada right now. Nevada, the legal brothel's right there. It is rife with trafficking. Literally, I can't. I've got some interviews up on my site that you could listen to. The women talk about how they're not even allowed to get their own money. They pay the pimps and only the pimps, and they won't even let. So if they leave with nothing. I mean, it basically gives the pimps the protection of law. We had to go to. This one woman, she wanted to file a charge against her pimp, her trafficker, for forcing her to work in the legal brothel. The Nevada Attorney General would not file charges. So she moved to California, where a California U.S. attorney did say that they would file charges against him. But, I mean, we had to literally, move heaven and earth just to even get a charge against this guy because of the protection of the brothel.
Now, doesn't that provide jurisprudence for this person? Doesn't that, and all of these type of people, doesn't that provide an opportunity for them to go, hey, it was done over here, do it again over here?
Which is why we tried to put everything into this case. If she'd been able to prosecute this pimp, it would have been a groundbreaking case. And then, yes, we would have been able to prosecute the other pimps within the legal brothels if we'd been able, but of course, they came after her really bad. I mean, she had 2 small children, and they threatened her so bad, she finally just said she couldn't handle the strain of the case. The problem is that we just didn't have enough resources to protect her to move forward. And, we're dealing again with a very criminal element that was threatening her about not moving forward. Because the brothel, this is what I'm saying, when you put the brothels in, they don't want the exposure. So it wasn't about the pimp anymore. The brothel owners then didn't want the case to shine light on them. So they then joined forces with the pimp to threaten her into silence.
Jody, thank you very much for answering my question. You're obviously a tremendous authority on this. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Michael has always chosen awesome guests. Thank you, Michael, for bringing Jody on. I'm a fascinated listener, and thank you for taking my call.
Thank you,
I hope
Matt.
that answers your question, Matt.
It sure does.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the call, and this is a very important issue, and it's my pleasure to be having guests like yourself on, because this is why I do this, because I love to bring on the experts, the people who are out there doing the work, and my job is kind of easy. I mean, all I've got to do is bring you on, and you get to make everybody aware. Because
it's not that easy. Let me tell you, because people need to support your show, and I'll tell you why. I've got reporters right now in major media outlets like the Times or the Review Journal or CNN who are telling me I would be dying to put you on air, but I will be fired if I do. So, I mean, they're being gagged. At least, you're not being restricted that way. So people need to understand how valuable of a service you're offering is that you're giving voice to people that can't get on major media right now.
Right. However, they are doing what they can. They're trying to get a grasp on the internet and quiet down, because see, we have affiliates. We run through New York, New Jersey, PA on High Point Radio. It's FM and AM there. We also are on K98 Talk, and we also get run on the Dark Matter Radio Network. And then we have our own station, the L&M Radio Network, which I think rules, because, we don't care who we tick off. We don't care about political correctness. We care less about any of that. We'll call anybody out, because the truth always prevails. I mean, this is what we need. We're in the predicament we are in right now because too many people have looked the other way and have been afraid to say what needs to be said. And so let's say it, and then let's get people active so we could do something about these things.
Yeah, and at least you aren't backing down. I mean, I've seen, there's a weird pattern is, I've been looking for other, people willing to talk, and it's interesting to see how many of them are winding up whacked, murdered, and, oh, gee, just dropped dead after jogging. I mean, I remember there was like a couple of names I could go down where I went, okay, he'd probably put me on air, and literally I'd go to and all of a sudden he's found dead. It's like, oh, okay, this is a pattern developing, and then you get the others that are scared. I remember, Jesse Ventura started coming out with the whistleblower thing, and then he ran down to Mexico for a while. He said they were coming after him, and then something happened to him down in Mexico. Now he's afraid. I got onto an interview with him on Twitter, and he just ignored me completely. He literally would not even acknowledge I was there.
Oh yeah, I've had Jesse Ventura on this show a few times, and he was all scheduled and ready to come back on. And he had sent me some questions that I was supposed to ask about his book, which I don't roll that way. Nobody tells me what I'm going to ask. So I sent him the questions I planned on asking him, at least some of them. I said, here's some of the things I'm going to bring up. Well, they were a little too touchy for him, so he decided not to come on my show, won't even talk to me now. So Jesse's been bought and paid for, or silenced, or one or the other. I don't know which.
Yeah, because if you look at him and look at photos of him and the way and followed his career the way I have, I think he's just scared. Because I mean, again, I see that they start with the first they like fire you, they run you off the air, etc. Then if you find sponsors to come back again, then they start smearing you. I've seen the smear campaigns. And then if you keep going, I'm seeing people winding up just dead. I mean, it's really frightening. You know, and so I mean, I don't blame people for getting scared. To me, he looks like he just got scared, and then you've got other people. I think no, like I remember, I first thought, oh, Alex Jones would be really great at this, and he was all excited to talk to me until I brought up Iran-Contra. Dropped me like a hot potato. You know, it was like, whoa, okay.
Well, yeah, these guys, they've got agendas, and I hate to say it, but they also have people they have to answer to, and everyone thinks they don't, but hey, you know.
They do, and let me tell you, I found out, because somebody told me, you know, maybe Alex Jones wasn't quite as oppositional as he pretends, so I went onto his website, and look, the guy's promoting porn. And I went, okay, this is why he's not going to put me on the air. Got it. You know, we can talk about some things, I find, but when we get to sex, you know, sometimes it's a little different.
Yeah, just a little different. And you know, some of these guys, they answer to their sponsors too. They'll get a sponsor who say, "Hey, you know, I really don't like that," and they're afraid. So they, you know, if I have a sponsor and they don't like what I'm covering, too bad. Pack up and leave. I mean, I run by the listeners. We're listener supported, and I like to keep it that way. So sponsors are just a bonus.
Well, that's the thing. You can put, like I said, you can put out people that, you know, other people are afraid to handle that way. So you're providing a very valuable voice there for people. You know?
Well, I appreciate it, and you know, it wouldn't be as great without people like you who do the footwork. I mean, look at the abuse that you've had to go through by bringing this to light, and I want to also thank Sherry Kane and Dr. Leonard Horowitz for directing you my way. They're going to be on the show tomorrow.
What was going on with me sounded like Coin Intel Pro, and I'm going, what's that? So they start telling me about this Coin Intel Pro, and so then I wondered if anybody else, you know, was dealing with some of this stuff. So I typed in sex trafficking, Coin Intel Pro, and then Sherry Kane's name came up. And see, that, you know, I should touch on that because this is what I found is, you know, here I am knocking on, you know, police door, the DA door, the U.S. Attorney's door, the FBI door. I'm getting nowhere about this case. I've got all this evidence about the heads of this operation, enough to lock everybody away. There's already been convictions of pimps in other states. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've got all the documentation to tie it back to the head. Nobody will talk to me. Then they started up to, this is what threw me completely for a while. Then somebody started coming online, and they started following me, and everyone that I would talk to, this person would get a phone call saying, Jody's crazy.
That's COINTEL for you.
5150, and these people are calling me back going, do you know somebody called me and said you're 5150? And I'm going,
yeah.
How did you do that? It was a private investigator who was, like, following my IP address. And I'm thinking to myself, why would she do this? And then it finally dawned on me two things. One, if I was found dead, of course, oh, well, she's crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, and then the other, of course, would be I was getting ready to go down to the Pasadena police, you know, station and start banging on the door, demanding that they look at this evidence. And then it dawned on me, oh, if I go down there banging on the door, they're going to cart me off on a 5150. I got it. So I started pushing back, you know, about it. And that kind of stumped them for a while. Now they don't know what to do about that because I started threatening with a defamation lawsuit. I said, you say I'm 5150 one more time, I'm going to file a defamation lawsuit.
Oh, Jody, I'm working on something like that now. I've got a few guys out there, one in particular who has been officially, well, two that have been officially assigned to me. And I mean, they must, well, one's finally eased up a little. I guess he has other jobs to do. So this other guy took full responsibility and he's like, I mean, he must spend 14 hours a day smoking cigarette after cigarette, drinking booze, and just writing. I mean, his website, I mean, he might as well change the name of it and just call it Michael Vera. I mean, because that's basically what it is. It's about how I'm a troll. And here's the thing. He's selling tools that are supposed to be about internet safety tools. He's selling them. He's using my name and my likeness to sell this stuff. So, I mean, and he is totally, he's contacted past guests of mine and told them, well, Michael Vera is this and Michael Vera is that. They've tried everything. They've even gone to psychics I've had on the show and tried to get these psychics to tell me, to convince me and use their magical powers on me that, you know, they're okay, they're good people, and that I should ease up. And it's amazing. They do get assigned to you, and they do spend an entire work shift.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's very important, because here's the thing, is you think it's you at first when this happens, because, I started Blog Talk Radio, and I had the same thing happen. The people that I wanted to bring on the show, people were contacting them, and they're telling me I can't come on the show. I'm being threatened. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And they said, I'm being threatened if I come on your show. Then my sponsors were being contacted, and they were being threatened, and they're saying, oh, you got to pull out my ad. And I'm like going, what is going on? Now I'm thinking, who is this person that has some problem with me so bad that they're sitting around? Again, I'm adding up the hours. This is a lot of work,
Oh, yeah.
And then anybody who comes onto my Facebook and says, hey, great job, Jody, they then call me up and say, this person called me up and starts telling me, to stay away from you if I value my reputation. And I'm like, wow, and then, so then, of course, at first, I'm thinking, piss somebody off. It's personal, right?
Yeah.
But then, like I said, I start, noticing the patterns. And then the patterns are very important. Because, like I said, I found Sherry Kane by typing in sex trafficking and COINTELPRO.
They have been fighting.
Telling me about the same thing.
Yeah, they've been fighting the COINTELPRO for a long time. And when I first had them on my show, I got threatened and I got warned. I better not have them on. Blah blah blah. And this happens with some guests where I'll get threatened not to have them on. And when that happens, I want to not only have that guest on, but I want to invite their whole family on when I get threatened like that. It's like, don't tell me what I'm going to do because
Right.
Yeah. So.
See, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky that people love me, and they know that I'm not crazy, and they know that I'm for real, and they'll because most of the time, most people will just back away, and they won't tell you that they got these weird threats or calls. But people come to me with the screenshots or the phone calls, and they say, look, this is what's going on behind your back. Now, through that, I've been able to gather up, the names of the people behind this, and I've been able to do research, and I've been able to tie it together. Now, that's where I said at first I thought it was personal. Then I started realizing that there were other people that were having the same problem, that were also in the same kind of, genre as me, working on sex trafficking, COINTELPRO, etc. So I then, now to test out my theory, right, I said, okay, I have a theory about what's behind this kind of smear campaign. And, it's very common in China. Smear campaigns are very common in China because if you look up 8-legged chicken in KFC, you'll see that there's KFC right now is suing a marketing firm for literally going online and smearing them by claiming that they had 8-legged chicken and that they were feeding them radioactive food and that they had a deep-fried rat. And, so I mean, this kind of thing now... of course, people say, well, why are you so important? Okay, well, let's take a look at that. Why am I so important? KFC produces so much money in chicken, right? I mean, now, if you add up the kind of money that I represent as a threat right now to the trafficking system, 10 times more, easily 10 times more than KFC. So if they would have a campaign to smear KFC, of course they're going to be smearing me.
Yeah.
But again, is it just me? So I made a list of groups that do, similar work to what I'm doing. And I started reaching out to them saying, are you having this kind of problem? Well, again, Sherry Kane. I said, are you having this kind of problem? Yeah, I am. So again, is it connected or not? So I said, well, tell me who. So I'm calling all these people up and comparing names, and I'm finding some very common denominators. And then when you do homework on people, it gets even more intriguing. One of the things I find the most fascinating is that I have traced every link in the campaign to smear me anyway, and also to smear any group that works with sex trafficking outside of the authority. In other words, let's say if the government is involved in trafficking, groups that work with that victim, like that strip club where the DEA owned it, and they had illegal aliens. Those women can't go to the police for help, so there are other groups that they can go to. So are these groups being targeted? So I go to those groups and, are you being targeted too? Yes, I am. Who's doing it? How are they doing it? There's some very definite common names. Like, remember I said after the 2007 press conference, I come home and my power was cut off?
Yes, I did.
And then my cable, power, phone, etc. were cut off. Okay, I go online and I do a little digging. And Lance Gilman now owns the Mustang Ranch brothel. Lance Gilman is also one of the three men who founded the Nevada Power Company. And he's also on the Board of Economic Development, which also in that board is the cable company, the phone company, et cetera, for Nevada. And I'm going, okay, this guy's literally on, like, the board of all of these companies. Now, again, was it personal? That guy, you know, Matt brought up that case where we started to put together a very groundbreaking case where the woman wanted to prosecute a pimp for trafficking her in a legal brothel. Okay, so she went up in front of the Nevada legislature on February 20th, 2013. I've got the tape of the hearing. It's very important that I have a tape of the hearing because the media then denied, the politicians denied, everybody denied she was there. I had to come back and say, I've got a tape of the hearing, you know, and then they, of course, scurried. But anyway, she started talking about it and what happened to her up there and her case, her situation. Now, and it was very important because Nevada was trying to expand the brothels into Las Vegas at this hearing. They had sent their lobbyists, and interesting, it was not in the news, it was not on the calendar, it was a backdoor meeting, you know, and George Flint, their lobbyist, he was going up in front of the Nevada legislature asking that they be allowed to set up a brothel in Las Vegas. She showed up, and she said, this is what really happens at brothels, and she blew him out of the water. She goes home, her power, her cable, her phone, her internet were all cut off for 3 days. I mean, okay, we've got a common denominator going here. This isn't me. You know, this isn't like somebody having some personal thing with Jody here, you know. It's very systematic. And, like, in all the homework that I've been doing, what I do find interesting, and this took me a while to piece together, like, who's behind this, why are they doing it, et cetera, you know, I started finding a common denominator back to, again, either the oil-based companies or the electric companies, the power companies, you know, that kind of thing. It's very odd, but I mean, I've you know, shown all the links back to these people, and it all, for some reason, seems to go back to certain specific types of companies, which I found interesting. And then I even wondered more, like, see, remember I told you I was very accepted in Los Angeles in the 80s, especially during the HIV thing. And we've got another HIV epidemic brewing, by the way, right now, and it's not being reported on very well at all. But we have another HIV epidemic going on. So I came back to LA and I started banging on doors again. Only this time I didn't get the same reception I got in the 80s. I did the same thing. I went to the CDC, I went to UCLA, I went to the politicians, and I said, we've got another HIV epidemic going on in the sex trafficking, and they're not going to doctors, and they're not reporting it, but it's there. And I need help to get, you know, help out there, because we've got a health crisis brewing. And they're ignoring me, and I'm not understanding this. Why are they ignoring me? They didn't ignore me before. Okay, so I start looking in the news, and I see that they're pushing right now to build a bigger jail. Oh, okay, now I got it. Because before they wanted to reduce the impact on the jails. They wanted to clear them out. Well, to build a bigger jail, you got to be overcrowded. Now I'm beginning to get the picture.
Yeah.
So I start watching the hearings of this for the bigger jail. I start watching the hearings, and I start noticing that there's a lobbyist who's always there. He's a lobbyist for the electric companies. And then I do a little digging more, and I come to find out that this new jail that they want to build in L.A. is not going to be solar-powered. It's going to be electric-powered. And I'm putting the pieces together here. Oh, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of money. I can see why they're trying to act like I don't exist.
See, that's great work. That is great work, and this is what people need to realize, that a lot of these corporations, these companies, they're incorporated with all this. The power companies. That's why we don't know about free energy. That's why they don't tell us about the UFO technology, because they don't want us to know that we don't need them.
Well, let's throw that into the UFO field, because you know what? People say, well, why are you interested in the UFO thing? Again, you know, I saw that we, as sex trafficking victims, were treated like people who said they were abducted by aliens. We got the same scoffing, the same laughing, right? Now, I started watching how they were trying to build, you know, credibility, and how they were being smeared, et cetera. So, you know, I'm watching them for tips, you know. And, like, one of the things I remember they did is they went to John Mack, you know, Rockefeller. He funded Dr. John Mack. He was the head of the psychology department at Harvard. They went to the most credible person they could find, John Mack. And, of course, they tried to smear him. They tried to attack him. They tried to run him out of the university. I mean, I watched, all that, and he stood his ground, and he came out with his report, and he said these people are legitimately traumatized. And he says, I don't know if it's alien or if it's our government. He said, but somebody's traumatizing these people.
Yeah.
And he put together all these groups, these, abductee therapy groups. And man, he really started rocking and rolling. There was, you could literally go on Facebook, find a group, go in and, talk about it, whatever, and get some support. And it was really moving forward. And then all of a sudden, bam, he's run over by a drunk driver. Ooh, But of course, then the groups didn't hold up. There's a documentary on Netflix right now called Cyrus. And I watched this very carefully because this Dr. Greer, he did everything he possibly could to put together the evidence, for this being real.
Yeah.
Evidently he had DNA, he had engineers, he had pilots, he had radar. I mean, he did something where he had 180 experts go up to the White House and testify, and he called it the Disclosure Project. And I watched basically how, this guy did everything you could think of humanly possible to get recognition for what, was going on. They just ignored him. And he says, okay, and he's doing his own thing now. And I watched that very carefully because it told me something. It told me that I could probably put 1 million trafficking victims together. I could probably do the same thing. And I'm, how am I going to compete with these PhDs and these pilots, et cetera, with a bunch of hookers? I'm not even going to get that far.
Well,
so, I took some tips from that. Maybe I need to just concentrate on building our own movement rather than thinking we're going to change the system here.
Well, I think that's what you're doing, and certainly that's what you're doing here. Because we have shows on this network like the Secret Teachings and Open Eyes, even, who will talk on almost a regular basis about these very things we're talking about tonight, and we do that for a reason, because we want to get awareness to these things. And you have been incredible tonight, and I would like to continue to get updates from you. I would like to keep having you back for updates, and I've already had an email sent out to you. If you send us an audio, I guess we'd call it an ad. It's not really an ad, but an audio clip of bringing awareness to this. We'd be glad to run it on the station.
Yeah, because I've just started a whole campaign now about Los Angeles, because I'm very worried that there are people being trafficked in this ring right now that are not getting help from the police and the authorities. Where are they going to turn? And I obviously can't go through the traditional route. So, I have started the Boycott Snoop campaign, so I would really like to keep some following up on that, so that anybody who needs help, does know that they can come here for help. They're not going to get it from the authorities.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jody, you email me anytime you want to do an update. I always, no matter who, if I've got someone scheduled for a full show and you want to come in just for like a 15, 20-minute update, I always do a news segment in the beginning of my show. So that first half hour, if I need be, you can come on for that, or you could come on for a full show. We could schedule that. So always, please stay in touch, because I love the work that you're doing, and I appreciate it, and you're very, very brave.
Yeah, anytime. The more exposure I can get on this, the better. So anytime, if you know any other producers that want me on, I'd love to do it,
Oh, I know a couple who would love to have you on. So I will definitely pass you over to them. And anything you want to get out right now, by all means, go ahead. We've got a few more minutes. I'll let you, any websites or what have you. And I do have you linked up.
People can find me at sexworkersanonymous.com for, if they want help to get out, or if they know somebody that needs help to get out. Because, again, we're not getting help from the system. So we've got systems in place to help,
All right.
And then also I've been finding that a lot of people have been telling me that because they're not getting help from the police, they've been turning to private investigators, and they're just getting ripped off right and left. So I started a website called beforeyoucallaninvestigator.com. Basically beforeyoucallaninvestigator.com. Call me, talk to me first, because these people are being ripped off. for thousands of dollars, and oh man, it's bad.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, before you do that, just talk to me first, and then we can work together to try to help these people. And then, of course, I'm putting together this boycottsnoop.com campaign, and what I'm going to do there is I'm gearing up right now to start going to the school principals and the PTA, et cetera, and put out an announcement that, if these kids are being trafficked, they're not going to get help from the system, and to call us, and that we can, get them the help that they need. And also boycott. The power of the dollar, I have found, it all boils down to the dollar. If people start registering economic complaint, that's when I see change happen,
I hear you.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got you linked up on LateNightInTheMidlands.com. This will be spread everywhere that in my power that I could get it. We'll also have this running on other stations as well for us, affiliates who are brave enough to run this kind of thing outside of ourselves. And I thank you tremendously, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Anytime.
All right. Thank you, and have a great night, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Good night. God bless you.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. There she goes. Now, there's a woman who is brave. She's got more cojones than anybody who is sitting in a Senate seat, a Congress seat, or the White House, for that matter. Here's somebody who's going out, who is laying it all on the line, and who is being attacked, who is being victimized, or at least they're trying to. Jody Williams, who is standing up for those who are being used as in human trafficking. We're talking about just like this surge of so-called kids coming over the borders. Well, some of them are, and they're being sent over the border for a reason. I'm telling you, this is big. Your CIA's involved. All these alphabet agencies. Now, not everybody in these organizations are bad people, but those who are in the know in those organizations are in the know. And that's why child pornography and pornography in general is flourishing on the internet. That's why it's such big business. It's because our government allows it to be. Our government wants it to be. Our government, for certain fashions of it, are part of it. And what we need to do is it starts with each one of us, folks. I've said this before. I'll say it again. We need to stand up, and we need to take it all back. I mean, we've got these so-called celebrities who are out there. I mean, they want Confederate flags brought down because of racism, but it's okay for pimps to come out who don't have no regret for what they've done, to come out and do voices for cartoons and sell their CDs and racist lyrics. And, I don't want anyone to be censored, but you know what? We've got to get the dirtbags out of our homes and out of our lives, and we've got to get this country and this world back to a standard that is acceptable. And no, not acceptable to me, acceptable, period. I mean, children and women and even young boys being used in these sex rings is, in my opinion, it's a crime that should be punishable by death. Absolutely punishable by death. And it's happening. And there's police departments, complete police departments involved in this. And they do threaten us. They do tell us to shut up and not to have guests like this on. And you know what? We tell them do something about it. Because as long as I breathe there, I'm going to continue to do what I do here. I'm Michael Vera. This has been a broadcast of Late Night in the Midlands here on the LNM Radio Network. For our station manager, program director, Ira Robinson. For our webmaster, Jolene Robinson. For all of our chat moderators, and prayers going out for JH and for Ruscala and for Adana, who I didn't realize was going in for another surgery. So we've got a lot of friends who are, putting their lives in the hands of the doctors. And hey, don't worry though, because you know what? You've all got an openness. You're spiritually open. You are connected highly, and you're going to be just fine, I promise you. And we're looking forward to all of you making a miraculous recovery. And, folks, keep your eyes posted to the sky, because you never know what you might see. Remember, question everything, absolutely everything that you have been told. Remember to think outside the box. Remember to spread this show, not steal it, but spread it, share it, the information, and keep your ears posted to this broadcast, because you never know what you might learn. Good night, everybody, and we'll be back with you tomorrow night with Dr. Leonard Horowitz and Sherry Kane. Good night.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.